in India this year not only signify the auspicious occasions, but also stand as a beacon of hope for economic and social revival. And with the festive buying and the grand sales, also comes the time to create those festive media plans and campaigns. In fact, over the years, brands have managed to create legacies on the back of some of the most path-breaking festive campaigns. Every Raksha Bandhan, don't we know a Cadbury celebration ad is on its way? Or every Diwali, a new Big Bazaar ad film or a HP commercial or even a Coca-Cola tale will come our way with some amazing stories. Year after year, brands and agencies create campaigns and media plans that drive emotions, bolster sales, and enable the festive spirit that leads to the completion of the purchase cycle. Social Samosa Presents Festive Marketing Week strives to take into account the finer elements of course, a festive marketing plan that stirs emotions while attaining the business objectives. Now, as we inaugurate this 3-day gala, we would like to thank all our speakers for lending their time and expertise, and also thank our gifting partners, Tetchley Green Tea, White Light Foods, The Man Company, The Sassy Teaspoon, and you, our dear viewers. You make it all possible. Before we commence the sessions for day one, you can catch the live stream of Festive Marketing Week on our Zoom, of course, right here, and Social Samosa's Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn pages. Please do send in your questions for our speakers on any of these channels. You can also tweet your questions using the hashtag Festive Marketing Week. You can also be a part of this festive marketing platform by sharing selfies while tuning into these sessions with the hashtag. Once again, it is Festive Marketing Week. And don't forget to tag us. Now, for the first session, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to invite on screen Mr. Hitesh Rajwani, founder and CEO, Social Samosa Network. A very warm welcome to you, Hitesh.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks a lot for the amazing introduction to the property. I mean, I think you've set the right course for us to begin the day, begin the festive marketing week, so to say. So I think, like Kathy said, I mean, festive season for brands and businesses in India is quite huge, and there is a lot of hope, and there's a lot of hope, positivity, and enthusiasm people connect with during this time frame. And that's the precise reason why we thought that for our community of advertising and marketing professionals, this season is quite big, and it's not celebrated or being spoken about the way people do celebrate the holiday sales season in the West, or the festive sales in other regions. So we thought we'll put together this property and we'll start the conversation, start a structured conversation around festive marketing. For me personally, I think this season is the time when I'm the most happiest of sorts. Like, I remember when I was a child, my father used to, he still runs a showroom back in a tier 2, tier 3 city. And I know that he's really excited about this festive season. He'll stock up inventories. He'll be very, very prepared for the festive season. He'll discuss, he used to discuss a lot of scratch card schemes back in the day, a short gifting and so on. So those are some of the things that I used to associate festive season back then. And to the point today that we have these whole brand properties which enable happiness and sales for brands and consumers alike. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our first session. Our first session for the day is a keynote address with Megha Tata. She's the Managing Director, South Asia for Discovery Inc. Megha has had an illustrious career of almost 3 decades, and she's led teams at media conglomerates like Star, like HBO, Turner, and her last stint was with BTBI. And Megha has been an inspiration for the industry at large because she's also the president of IAA, the International Advertising Association. Welcome, Megha, to Social Samosa Festive Marketing Week. It's an honor to have you with us today.
Thank you, Hitesh, and good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Looking forward to our chat. There is no fire on my side, so we'll still have a fireside chat, though.
Same here as well. So Megha, we'll start the discussion, and my first thing, I think we'd hosted you at an offline event before the pandemic, and we'd had that conversation back then. So in the last 18 months, uh, we've seen that leaders, like business or marketing leaders at large, have been taught how to be resilient and to be prepared. So how do you define the current advertising, marketing, and media landscape from that standpoint? How have the last 18 months been for the industry at large?
Right, Hitesh. I think it's been, in my view, quite an interesting last few months. While we've gone through clearly a challenging period, personally and professionally, I think there is a huge sense of optimism, if I must say, in the market and the brands and the marketers and generally people at large. I think there has been a lot of pent up anxiousness because of the fact that they were unable to get out or unable to spend. And there is this whole feeling of we've got to get back onto our feet, not only as an industry, but as an economy. And what we are seeing now is, and it's been spoken quite a bit, is about what is called the revenge shopping, right? So there is a whole concept of revenge shopping happening, which started off more online, and we see the whole lot of movement in the the e-commerce space, where the digital revenue has hugely grown. When I say digital, more on the e-commerce space, where consumers are buying a lot of products online. And I think there will be the same consumer either will split up or move towards the physical retail world as well, when that opens up in entirety. So I'm very confident. I'm very positive of the fact the next few months are going to be really positive in terms of either marketing and spends and buying. We are already sensing it in the market in terms of advertisers across the platforms who have upped their advertising spends for this quarter. So all in all, I think there is a positive energy which is around in the ecosystem for this balanced quarter, or especially for this festive season.
Okay. And you spoke about this consumer behavior of revenge shopping. Apart from revenge shopping, what are some of the macro level changes you've seen in consumer behavior, whether it is in terms of consumption of media that they are using? I mean, whether it's one of the conventional mediums like TV or print, or more towards digital. So what are some of the consumer behaviors you've spotted in the past 18 months, and how you've used those insights to sort of change course for your organization and in your position as a business leader?
Yeah, so I think if you're referring for the last few months and how it's going to be, I think there are two sides to that. What's been the fact that yes, television has continued to grow, in spite of the digital consumption also growing. India is uniquely positioned to have both the verticals growing. So linear has grown, so has the digital, which is a great place to be in, frankly, because it's a good place to have the even the advertising for that matter is growing in both these platforms. So hence the consumer is definitely spoiled for choice, and is obviously has lots to, they have an option from choosing. And I think that's where the challenge lies for the businesses. How do you sort of balance the two places, especially platforms or organizations like ours who are strong in linear and digital. So how do you sort of balance that has been the big challenge for most of the broadcasters. But from a marketer's point of view, they are using, I think digital was clearly a big mainstay. So earlier on, people used to allocate a certain percentage of their overall advertising budget or marketing budgets to digital. But today there are many brands who have only digital as their main main platform to market, right? So that fundamental shift has happened. So advertising is definitely grown, but again, the traditional mediums are not just being written off completely. The other day I was, I don't consume too much of newspapers. The other day I picked up one of the leading newspapers, and it took me like 5-6 pages to get to the first page to read the news. So clearly their market is back, and how, people are advertising, and whether it's real estate or fintech or ed tech or e-commerce, or even today I see a lot of the whole cryptocurrency brands which have taken up big time. I think that's a new entrant in my view, which wasn't around for maybe last year as much this year. So there are a lot of categories which are growing. So both linear and digital are growing, and I think both have a good space to stay.
Right. And according to you, what in the past, whatever last few months also, I know that the organization or the president, that I had done an offline event also. So what is the kind of change you see in the conversations that are happening in the offline space also now? Because things are opening up. How are advertisers and marketers, or even business leaders for that matter, looking at this new pre-pandemic world? What are some of the priorities you've heard in the circles?
When you say offline, as in actual physical events,
right? I mean, I think I did one offline event.
Yes. It was one of the few ones, a few people who did the on ground. So yes, I think as long as we are, I think fundamentally people are open now, right? But as long as you're in a controlled environment, I don't think so. The world at large, at least our country, is fully ready to just go out in this like a big, huge party kind of a place, if it's really crowded and things like that. I think that I'm not sure how that's going to be taken, though I hear a lot of big events are opening up in this quarter of in this quarter, as in the last quarter of this year. But I think if you have a controlled environment, maybe that's a good place to start. But it isn't, I wouldn't say that it is like, okay, let's just open it up and people will come and the events will happen and all of that. The offline world was back to the pre-pandemic. No, not yet. I think there is a sense of fear, still a sense of caution, which is there, it'll be interesting to see what happens when the theaters open. Theaters are supposed to open later this month in Maharashtra, and let's see how many people are going. And the whole, the film industry is actually waiting to see a positive outcome out of that, because that industry definitely needs all the support it needs to get them back in business. So I think there is still wait and watch, in my view, on the on-ground piece. It's not so. It doesn't matter kind of thing. Let's just go ahead and do it. I don't think so. There has to be a little conscious thinking. But in terms of content consumption, digital and linear, and the utilization of the traditional media versus the new age media, I think both is in a strong space right now.
And you spoke about how Discovery also has a strong digital presence. And I remember that during this lockdown, there were a couple of Bear Grylls Man vs. Wild episodes which went truly viral. So what was that also connected, those episodes were also connected to this whole behavior of people consuming more time on digital, or because digital has some deeper engagement? So there were a lot of people who were creating content with the show at the center of it. So
absolutely.
How has your journey been exploring the digital side of things in the past 2 years?
No, absolutely, Hitesh. I think one of the big things we feel when we launched Discovery Plus, it was pretty much 2 years ago, almost on the day when the lockdown was happening. So it was in the middle of all this change, we launched Discovery Plus, and fortunately, it worked really well because the content was great and people wanted to consume more content because they had so much time in their hand. And I think that sort of played out in our favor. Having said that, and like I said, customer and consumer today spoiled for choice. There is so much option for him or her to evaluate on. So unless you bring in some kind of a distinction or a differentiation, it's going to be challenging for to be able to survive. So I think Discovery Plus is in that sweet space. You know, we are able to bring that differentiation of content, which is not a, you know, maybe available, but in small measure on other platforms, but we've like got thousands of hours of that content, you know, and that's really the benefit Discovery Plus has. So for a show like Man vs. Wild, you know, or Into the Wild, which we did recently with, you know, with Akshay Kumar and Rajnikant at the time when it went really, you know, a lot of consumption took place and it was a huge hit. In fact, we just today announced our next big star who's coming on to Into the Wild it's Ajay Devgan. And he and Bear have had some great adventures in the ocean. So, you know, please do look out for watching it on 22nd October on Discovery Plus and 25th October on Discovery Network, the television network. So I think there is clearly a great interest and keenness for consumers to watch content like this because it is different, it's complementary. I mean, I want to be satiated with my fiction. Of course, we all love fiction and we would watch that. But I also want to watch content like this. And I think Discovery Plus is in that space which can offer. But interestingly, what I have seen, and which you will see more of, I would believe, is that how a lot of brands, including us, and not just because we're media entertainment brand, I'm saying regular products like FMCG products or any of the marketing products are moving. I'm not saying maybe alternate, may not be completely moving, but at least headed in that direction of replacing advertising to content creation. So there is a fundamental shift in the approach to how you're bringing your brand communication. In earlier times, you know, you do have a brand, you have a marketing plan, you brief an agency, you get the brand created, you create beautiful ads, and you know, you achieve your marketing goals and so on and so forth, and maybe a few awards as well in the bargain. But today I see more and more brands engaging with the consumer through content creation, which is not necessarily an ad, right? I think that is an interesting shift which is taking place in my view, and influencer marketing hence has become a huge play. More and more of that is going to happen in the coming months, I would imagine.
And you spoke about content creation. So how, like, because I know Discovery also produces a lot of content. So like pre-pandemic, there might be some priorities and there would be some structure to programming content or creating content. During the pandemic, there would be some things some guidelines that you might be following. And now when things are opening up, there is another change that is happening. So how have things changed for content creation for a bigger firm like yours? And at the same time, even advertising agencies at large, or even brands, how they are looking at content at this point?
So it's to my previous point, like it's that whole content creation and the influencer marketing, which is playing a big role. It's become a top of the funnel game for lots of brands. You know, I mean, there was a time, like I used to say, there's a time where, you know, where celebrities were influencers, right? Today, influencers are celebrities.
Right.
You know, there's a fundamental shift which has taken place thanks to social media, and most of them, a lot of them actually are from the tier 2 and 3 cities. You know, it's not just a metro phenomenon. So when you want to reach into larger audiences and when your ROI needs to be more effective, I think a lot of brands and marketers are exploring that medium very seriously and seeing the benefit of it. And that to me is a shift. Possibly we'll see more of that. Like we've used a whole lot of influencer marketing. You know, in earlier time, maybe we would have created a great ad, we would have created a great promo, got an agency, put a creative together, then market it on, you know, traditional and non-traditional medium. But today we don't necessarily have to create that. You know, we work with the influencer or the you know, a certain platforms which are exactly targeting the audience we want to reach out, and create a content mix which is not only engaging as a pure content, but also helps you achieve your marketing goals. So I think that is an interesting shift which is taking place.
Okay. So there are some questions in comments. Can I take some of those?
Yes, please.
Yeah. So Tanuja is asking, how do we specify our target audience more, or mediums through which we can connect? Like, how can we be more specific in our targeting, how can we be more granular in our targeting? That's her question.
More granular in the targeting. I think today, if ever there was any time wherein you can be very specific about your marketing objectives and target objectives, it's today, because there is so much of data accuracy. And today data can play a very critical role. It always did, but now there is so much granularity of data available that you can be very particular about who you want to target and how you want to target. And especially if you're looking at digital platforms, and if you're spending your monies on digital platforms, there is enough and more metrics to make it very targeted kind of buys. And that's why it's so easy to evaluate the ROIs on digital medium, and you can quickly make changes as well. If you think that's not working in the direction you want, you can quickly make the changes to make it go in the direction you want. So I think there is enough and more metrics available today to help you achieve that.
And what are your thoughts on OTT advertising? So like advertising on these leading OTT platforms, because within digital, like they've also seen a lot of growth in the last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah. Yes, there are a few platforms across in the country who have obviously done extremely well when it comes to AVOD. So I think overall the business models in most I think key broadcasters is AVOD and SVOD. I think the opportunity to grow, people who came with a first move advantage have benefited, definitely. And I think there is a challenge on how do you make a business model work both with the keeping an AVOD and SVOD proposition strong. And that is I wish there was a black book with all the rules written on it and we could all follow it and make a success out of it. Unfortunately, there isn't. And we need to keep changing our approach to it to manage what our individual business goals are. So yes, our advertising is an integral part of a lot of platforms, but it's a decision. I think most of the broadcasters are, especially the ones who have both AVOD and SVOD play and linear and digital play, how to balance the two.
And there's one more question on celebrity endorsements versus influencer marketing. So, like, can we see a day in light of the day wherein an influencer or leading influencer from India is on Man vs. Wild as opposed to celebrity?
Yeah, well, life is stranger than fiction. Why not? Maybe yes, considering I did mention that today from celebrities, from celebrities being influencers, today influencers are celebrities. You never know. That's always a possibility.
Right. So you identified content creation and influencer marketing as one of probably two trends which business and marketing leaders should definitely look at. What are some of the other trends you foresee for the coming years which might change the way we look at things as consumers and at the same time as advertisers and marketers?
I think this itself is quite going to be a big change, Hitesh. Imagine the whole. We are evaluating a basic principle of marketing. That what if that is like, how can you think of marketing without advertising? Here now you're saying that there's a possibility. That to me is like, oh my God, let's sit back and think through what is happening here. So if more and more brands see that as the way forward, I personally don't believe it's replaceable. I think it's a balancing of both. I think both are needed and both can coexist. But this wasn't a situation maybe a few years ago. And that is a change which I see happening, more and more influencer marketing taking place. And these influencers can really are helping you move the needle for your sales. See, if they were doing it just for doing it, and you feel you can really evaluate the performance of that and see it's not working, then then the jury is out there. But the fact is that it is helping. And because it's helping, you will see more and more of that happening. You'll see more and more of product integration happening, for example, in shows and the content they're creating. Earlier on, I think influencers were just doing it for, exploring. Today, they are charging a serious lot also for that. And they are highlighting it that it is an ad supported, or it's a sponsored or a partner initiative or something like that. It's not going as pure content. So more and more people are getting smarter about this, I guess. And I think that's something you will see happen, in my view. I think that's really an interesting thing to look out for.
So lastly, any closing thoughts from you for the fraternity on the festive season, how they should be looking at it? Any learnings that you might want to share with the audiences who are viewing?
Well, of course, it's one, let's be positive and optimistic about the festive season. There's already a sense of optimism, I think, from most of the marketers and the people, from the fraternity we speak to. Our own businesses are showing a great, upside, and lots of new shows are getting launched, and lots of new events are happening in this quarter, which also confirms the fact that people are ready to go out, experience, spend money. So there is a sense of optimism and positivity. But at the same time, we have to be very careful of managing the protocols which are needed to make sure that we don't come back with a third wave, because that's the business, the economy, the country, the world at large cannot afford it. And so we have to be conscious about that and make sure that we do it in the right way, so that we are able to survive and thrive in a strong and a positive way. So I'm pretty optimistic about this balance of this year's quarter, and definitely for next year.
Thank you, Megha. Thanks a lot for spending our time for this session.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me. Thank you, everyone.
Questions. Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Megha and Hitesh. I can see that the interaction in the chat itself is going off the roof. There are so many questions, and I'm sure it's happening on all our social media channels as well. Well, there couldn't have been a better start to this event, and our audiences concur, as I said, as comments and tweets pour in. I'd like to just remind all of you that keep using the hashtag Festive Marketing Week so that we can be part of the conversation. And now, ladies and gentlemen, for the next session on building brand legacy through festive marketing, I would like to invite on stage Swami Mehra, Vice President Marketing, Tata Sky Broadband, Kiran Giradkar, Chief Marketing Officer, Nilon, Krishnarao Buddha, Senior Category Head at Parle Products, and moderating this session is Ms. Saloni Surti, Editor, Social Samosa and Media Samosa. A very warm welcome to all of you. Request you to please switch on your cameras and mic and join us on screen.
Hi,
welcome,
Kathy.
Mr. Mehra.
Hi,
Hello.
Kathy. If there is some problem with the video.
Just a second. The video, I'm not able to see you yet. Saloni, can I have you also please switch on your camera and mic?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Kathy, for the introduction. Hi Swami. Hi Kiran. How are you all?
Good. Hi, Saloni. Thanks for having me here.
Anytime. Kiran, we are not able to see.
I think there are certain issues. So I'm extremely sorry, guys. I'm just looking at this video.
No worries, no worries. We have Krishna joining us shortly. So as soon as he joins, we'll start with our discussions. To give our audience like a quick brief, the session is about building brand legacies on the back of festive marketing. Right. So over the years, we have seen brands create some amazing campaigns. Be it Sindoor Khela, which went on to win like a number of awards, or be it Paper Pataka by Big Bazaar. Right, we have seen brands manage to create not just recall, but overall advertising legacies and brand recall that lives beyond time, right? So here we will discuss in the current scenario, what does it mean to build a brand legacy, especially through festive marketing. We do have a few questions for our speakers, which we will be starting shortly. Swami, Krishna, Kiran, are you guys in Mumbai right now?
Yeah, pretty much, but yes.
Great. So all the festive planning must be going on head on, I'm assuming.
Yeah, absolutely, yes. So, yes.
Great. Okay, I think we have. Okay, I think we can just a second, guys. I will just coordinate with the. Okay, I think so. While Krishna joins, we can start off, with the first question, and I think we need to address right away, the elephant in the room, as we call it. Pandemic has changed everything. It's pretty safe to say, right? So, in the lieu of all the changes that have happened, how do you think brands need to approach festive marketing now? Maybe we can start off with Swami.
Extremely sorry, guys. I'm
Hi,
back.
How are you?
Great to see you.
Yeah, so festive marketing, it's like one fertile period in the marketing calendar. And yeah, that is the time that we need to sort of leverage all of our marketing mix and our customer value propositions and so on and so forth. I believe, yeah, transactionally, a lot of things have changed. The way people view life now has changed. And this might sound a bit philosophical, but it is true for most of us. So we sort of, the newer customer value propositions have to develop now. And I think consumers are sort of, while the consumerism will stay in the back of our heads, I think with pandemic hitting us and the lines diminishing between the class, because everything really boiled down to being alive. So people have become a bit reflective. I think that'll just give a sense of heightened emotion in our country. Not that it wasn't there, it was there. India is an emotional country, and we reach out to our customers very, very emotionally. But I think that entire sense of giving, the entire sense of accomplishment, the empathy, being with the customer, that is something that is going to drive market for next few months. And that is going to be a center stage of all our communication with the consumer. Talking of my category, which is broadband, I think one thing that has worked beautifully for us is that through the pandemic period, when we saw there was a heightened demand for broadband and everybody was wanting broadband, what really clicked for us was we being on customer side, telling or making sure that minimum time is spent at the house, so that consumer is at least sure that whomsoever he's interacting with is safe, because we have to enter the house. Our engineers displaying the cards. So, and we propagating those things rather than price, because customer today are far, far away from penny pinching. They're willing to spend extra few rupees for a quality stuff. So ensuring we have a saying that you must feel broadband in its absence. The presence should be felt in its absence. And that entire thing, the entire customer value proposition revolved essentially around the product, not around pricing, nothing. Just being with the customer, being empathetic with his needs. They would call you, they'll make sure, and we would make sure that we sort of turned around and gave them the best of the service. So this festive season also, we plan to continue that. We plan to sort of communicate that effectively to the customer. And that is how we see this festive season sort of helping us in sort of establishing our customer value proposition, strengthening it further. Yeah.
Thank you, Swami. I will quickly like to welcome Krishnarao on panel. It is great to have you with us. I just quickly repeat the question that we had, right? So the idea is to discuss how has festive marketing changed pre-pandemic and post-pandemic. And Swami has just given us some great insights from an industry perspective. If you could start with Kiran, what are the changes you see in the FMCG industry?
See, disruption is always good, okay? And this is a huge disruption, but thankfully it has actually taught us lots of things. For example, the consumer is still the same. Consumers' needs are still the same. The only way the marketers are working and they are serving the consumer has actually changed. It's no brainer for everyone that e-commerce is one very, very good channel which has actually emerged. The reason is quite obvious because we are sitting at our home and people are needing their essential stuff, etc. So that is where we have already seen a big jump. Also, from the advertising perspective, how the consumer is consuming the content and consuming the advertisements, the credibility about the advertisement actually has seen the sea change. For that matter, for example, if you see the communication which is going to the consumer from the advertisers directly is less credible now because everybody knows that these are people who are going to push their product to them. While in earlier session when we were thinking that when influencer marketing is like emerged a lot. It's because, while it might be giving you reach, one of the most important stuff about influencer marketing that it actually gives you credibility. For example, because, it is not the big celebrity who is speaking or, earning monies out of the endorsements. It's somebody like me or you who are in our vicinity. They are actually speaking good about your brand. So I think digital marketing, which actually seen push, and the e-commerce as a channel, which actually emerged a lot, and customization to the consumer in terms of the product offering. These are 3 or 4 big things which I have picked up from last 1.5 years during this COVID.
Great. Thank you, Kiran. I'd like to extend the same question to Krishna. What are the changes you have seen pre and post pandemic from a Parle point of view and as a marketer as well?
Yeah. First of all, apologies for the delay in joining. But hello, Kiran, and hello,
Hi,
Swami.
hi, Krishna.
Hello,
Hi.
Yes. Well, Saloni, so if you were to compare, I think Kiran is already sort of mentioned and answered it. Largely, we've seen a huge traction. Of course, especially during the festive times, for certain categories, we have seen a huge traction, say categories like the premium offerings from Parle, and say in terms of savory snacks, we have seen a huge traction. And importantly, for the last 10 odd years, we have been focusing on a lot more on the gifting solutions. So festive gifting has turned out to be a big business for us. So these are typically assorted packs of our range of products, priced anywhere upwards of about 150 rupees till about 500 rupees. So now we have tins, etc. available at around 400, 500 rupee price point. And these become a great gifting options for small and medium enterprises. So there we have seen a lot of traction. So in the past, particularly in the past, say 18 odd months, we have seen modern trade being almost sort of stagnant in terms of the contribution to the business. But what has actually shown a huge delta of almost about 3 times is e-commerce. E-commerce, which was contributing, suppose if you were to look at the construct at Parle, typically about 7 to 8% contribution would come from modern trade and about 2% from e-commerce, 1.5%, 2%. Now that 1.5%, 2% in the last 18 months has shot up to over 6%. Actually sort of clearly indicated to us that more and more shoppers are actually buying online. That has been a turning point, I would say. One, and moving forward, looks like shortly in the next 2 odd years, there is a good possibility that e-commerce might actually surpass the contribution of modern retail. Though modern retail is growing, but we all know the kind of scale that e-commerce has. We've recently witnessed the big billion days and the Great Indian Shopping Festival, and the kind of monies that these portals have raked in has been phenomenal. And so even that has become a great opportunity even for groceries to shop, because these are available at a deal and at a steal, and that is actually giving us a very good traction. Besides, and as a result of which, we realize a greater or a higher importance of advertising during the festive times to this audience. So digital also since 2016, we have seen a huge traction coming in on digital, because all this while we spoke about digital, but actually we never spent money as much because there was little or no conviction. But since the time 4G arrived, we have seen a lot many positive changes as far as digital is concerned, and the pandemic has actually increased the number of gadgets available at home. So each one has either a desktop or laptop or tablets, or of course the smallest screen besides the large screen. So there are so many more alternatives, and we know that people are spending more and more time on internet, and as a result, we have a huge opportunity to target our prospective audiences on those platforms. And as a result of which, we are seeing and we are actually implementing a lot more on digital than ever before.
Thank you for the insights, Krishna. So, when we talk about brand-specific festive marketing blueprints, so Swami, for Tata Sky Broadband, what is the objective from festive marketing this year, and what does your festive marketing blueprint or shopping list looks like?
Broadband as a category, and this might be a bit insightful for you guys. Broadband as a category, the acquisitions actually sort of come down instead of going up. So the way I look at it is, generally speaking, the trend would go up, but it's not that Diwali comes and your sales sort of doubles up. Why is because ours is a very, very human intensive industry, and people actually it takes at least 2 to 3 hours to install a connection. So what we are wanting to do is, we are just wanting to be on side of the customer, and that is what we really want to do. Because like both the gentlemen said, word of mouth is one thing, or quality of the product is one thing, which is going to drive the consumer behavior in long run. With digital boom happening, the span of attention for a customer has reduced a lot. The communication has to be relevant. Now, it can be relevant only in 2 forms. Either you create a content or an ad which is so impelling that a person has a look at it, or you have a relevant influencer, a relevant feedback, and which is what we rely on as a category, because you won't want to have you won't want to buy a broadband because Hrithik Roshan is asking you to buy that broadband. You will buy a broadband because your neighbor is saying that I'm very satisfied with the broadband. So that is what we are investing in. We are hugely focused to sort of sell our proposition, which is reliability. We don't want outages. The category is such that outages are bound to happen, but we ensure that the turnaround time is as low as maybe 1 hour. And that is something that we actually want people to feel. We want people to talk about it, that we had a flawless Diwali. Because see what has happened, and I'll tell you, just this is a bit insightful again, and all of us would know in some form or the other. Earlier, there used to be one person who would decide which broadband to buy. Now, because everybody is using the broadband, even my Dadi is using a broadband for her online satsangs. We've had birthday celebrations online. So everybody has a say in it. Earlier, the family time used to be the TV time. With boom of OTT, what has happened is that you are watching your content on your mobile screen. The family time is not the TV time anymore. So everybody has a say in the category which is broadband. It is almost as necessary as electricity, at least in urban homes. So our Diwali plans are that we just want to go on and establish our customer value proposition of quality, of reliability, of being by side of the customer, come what may. Because what will happen is that outages will happen. What we need to ensure is that we need to make that customer feel happy. We have a zero queue call center. You call a Tata Sky broadband call center, it'll just ask for a language and you'll be through. So that's a delight for the customer. It obviously costs us a bit, but that's the kind of product, that's the kind of brand legacy that we're trying to build. And we want to leverage this festive season to further sort of strengthen that equity of ours. Yeah.
Makes sense. And what about you, Kiran? How does it look like for Nilons?
See, we all Indians, I mean, we are always look forward to celebrations, festivals, celebrations, any moments of happiness. They are always on the list, and who doesn't want to, savor them? This is a simple insight, and that is why I'm always optimist and very upbeat about the mood for any celebration. I mean, yeah, economies will come, go, etc. Whatever disruptions will happen. But certain categories, for example, apparels, home decoration or food. I mean, thankfully, I'm in a food category, and I know that for surety, that is never going to get into a deep kind of stuff. And more so ever when it comes to festivals. So festivals are always a good time for any food industry or in a beverage industry, and always we put aside some kind of marketing investments for the consumers because there are sweet times, sweet celebrations. In fact, at Nilons also, well, people might think that it is primarily a pickle company, but it might be insight for most of you guys that only 20% of my sales actually contributed by the pickles. We are into instant mixes. We are into rest of the products, etc. One of the key product line which we push to the consumer, and it is always having the good traction, is instant mixes, gulab jamun mixes, etc. And that is where we introduce lots of consumer offers. We push it to say, trade offers, etc. And even do lots of consumer marketing. Of late, we have started doing lots of, taking moment marketing on digital, etc. And creating kind of a ripple into the social conversations. And that is how the brand is being seen as a very genuine brand, as opposed to a traditional advertising where I push my product, etc. So point I'm trying to drive here is that, especially for the categories like the apparel, for food or home decor, they don't really need to worry about, come what may, petrol price 200 rupees ho jayega, but still I will buy some good apparels for my festive season. I will buy some good food, etc. So that is what is, my outlook for this festival, and we are actually geared up for that.
Kiran, I see one question for you in the comments, and it is related, so I'd like to take it now. The question is, what is the proportion of media investments, TV versus online?
Okay, for now, in Krishna's case, it will be very different. In my case, it's very different. Okay, now every industry and every organization within the industry, they have a different fabric. Okay, certain industry or certain organizations like Nilons, which are a very good traction in upmarket. You won't see much of the conversations about Nilons in the metros, but we are very, very strong in HSM market, the cowbell for that matter. And there, down the smaller towns and tier 2, etc., we don't do lots of advertising, okay, but we do lots of visual communication for the customers as well as the consumers. And that is where we have seen good traction. But we understand very well that to grow the brand beyond those cowbells and to take it to the metros, we need online communication and TV communication. So that is where we have started spending on TV communication. Pankaj Tripathi is our brand ambassador, and we started communicating. So right now, it is still very, very lopsided in terms of BTL. But yes, we are going to increase that proportion to the TV in favor of television. Certain brands which I worked earlier, I was working under Krishna when I was at Parle and Bisler, etc. These are the brands which have grown to larger proportions, and their penetration is huge. Obviously, television proportion is very high. Krishna may agree or disagree on that. But for us, it is still 20/80. But proportion for digital definitely is going to increase. Now, this is because when you're warming up the audience who is living into the metros, you just can't, keep on pumping your monies on television, because you know that the share of the screen and viewability, it is shifting to the smaller screens, and that is where digital actually helps.
Great. Thank you, Kiran. Krishna, we have the same question for you. What's the objective for Parle this year from Festive Marketing?
Yeah, the objective is obviously to capitalize from the festive marketing. As I've already touched upon the opportunity areas and how we leverage the festive period. And there are not all brands do well during festive times, particularly from Parle's portfolio. Say confectionery set of brands might not do necessarily as well during festive times, or certain biscuits also might not do as well during festive times. Why? Because during such times, there are a lot of new homemade preparations or bought out preparations come into the household. So it could be the time for dry fruits. It could be the time for chocolates. It could be time for a lot of homemade savories and sweets, so which are prepared at home. So as a result of this, the biscuits are almost, I can term them as staples. A few of them actually might take a back seat. But like I said, the gifting options where we have the premium offerings, where we have brands like Hide and Seek and Milano and the Black Bourbons. So these are indulgent and premium offerings, which generally people love to share and gift one another. So that is a great opportunity. Likewise, we have presence in savory snacks, Western snacks, which wherein we have potato chips and chatkins, which is like namkeens, etc. So those are the products which gain a lot of traction. Actually, so much so that we get almost about 40% of our annual sale comes out of the festive season. So it's that big for us.
Thank you. So that does help a lot of insights. I'd like to start the conversation a little bit towards brand legacy, which has been a theme for the session. So over the years, which has been your favorite festive marketing campaign, and why? And how do you think it has managed to create a legacy for itself? So we could start with Swami again.
Brand legacy, I feel, is essentially it's a subject in itself. But yeah, essentially, I think we have to think long term in creating the legacy, and that's the key word. And if you're thinking long term, I think then your actions are swifter, your vision is clearer, your everything is unifocused, everything falls into place, and there's no entanglement of thought or actions, and the team alignment at large. So think long term is one thing that I think is all. Whichever brand has built something for itself, they've thought long term, be it Apple, be it Tanishq, or be it any big brand which has been successful, has created legacy. They have thought long term. They have, and they've been nimble. They've been speaking the language that customer have been speaking. Tanishq is one brand which comes to my mind, which is like, I just saw their campaign for at least maybe some month or 45 days back, which is Utsaah. And they're essentially, again, speaking the same language, but it's like bringing back the good old days. So you have to have that clarity. And Tanishq is one brand that I actually sort of associate, not because I am working with Tata, but yeah, even before that. Tanishq is something that has sort of built on human emotion so beautifully and yet remain topical. So I think that is something that we, as a marketeer, can pick from brands who build something for themselves. Like Tanishq is one brand which again keeps on coming to my mind. But yeah, essentially, it's thinking long-term, being unifocused, and yet speaking the customer language, sort of speaking the language that he can relate to at that point in time and remaining topical. So that's it. I think it's simple but complex and very, very long-drawn process, which is building the legacy.
Okay. And Kiran, which would be your favorite festive brand or campaign, and why?
Yeah, lots of them, but specifically when it comes to festivals, I cannot miss something called as Cadbury's, because obviously those campaigns are weaved around quite a big insights, and insights are about sharing love and celebrations. Thankfully, they have got their brand names as well around that name. So that is actually something which actually has rested in back of my mind. But I'm sure there are many more like that. Surprisingly, if you see, very few brands must have done something very specifically for festive. Okay, there might be content pieces which are pushed digitally, etc. Otherwise, you will see lots of appliances, random people coming together as a family and wishing you and giving some offers, etc. So in terms of the communication, I mean, Cadbury has done a good job and monetize those occasions for increasing consumptions.
Great. Thank you, Kiran. Krishna, if you could tell us about your favorite campaign.
Yeah, I think I sort of agree with Kiran. Cadbury is something that comes to my mind instantaneously. Cadbury has been the key reason being that they have been consistent over at least almost about over 2 decades. And gifting or festive season, they have been able to link, bring in a very strong linkage with the festive times. So the moment you talk about festivities, you'll find that Cadbury gifting options, they come like big time, and they have actually stretched it in such a beautiful way that it's not now restricted as much only to the festive times, but these certain packs are available almost around the year. So it has been that's made a strong impact, at least me as a consumer. Likewise, I feel the other categories that have made a huge impact is the paints companies. I'm saying not specifically Asian Paints or Nerolac, but then they typically keep coming with interesting communication during the festive times. And likewise, even e-commerce somehow, the likes of Flipkart and Amazon, actually there's a huge competition, though they are here to sell so many other products to us. But what is astonishing is the kind of advertising that they have invested upon and the kind of impact these two e-commerce portals have made on the minds of consumers at large. I think quite commendable. And actually, it's not just that; it doesn't stop there. Actually, it's leading into huge numbers, and the numbers are incredible. So we all know about those numbers, and every season is much bigger than the previous one. So I find them to be extremely impactful.
Great. That does make a lot of sense. But when we discuss brand legacy and we discuss brands that have been around from a very long time, who've been advertising from that amount of time, how do you think as a brand custodian, how do you think, what is the construct of brand legacy now, especially when there is so much clutter of campaigns, there's so much content coming in every day, and like we know the attention span has reduced. So what is the construct of ideal brand legacy now? If you could start. Yeah.
Me? Okay. So, see, ideally, like I said, first thing first, you have to remain relevant in the mind of the consumer. Because like you said, there's so much clutter, and the attention span of the consumer is so less. You have to as a category A, and then as a brand and your value proposition, you have to choose the place where you want to be. I don't think, irrespective of category, irrespective of what your position within the category is, not many company can afford to be at every place in terms of promoting their product. I have to sort of I need to know who's my consumer, where is he shopping, where is he going, what's he looking for, what's the value proposition that he's seeking, and ultimately, is my product going to deliver the benefit to him? So do I supply that much value which will cover in his own mind the cost of the product? So I think that clarity we have to have in our mind before sort of going out and choosing our place of interest where we want to sort of invest in and promote the brand. That is one thing which is very category specific, and within category also operator specific. Talking of myself, like we are not as big a player as maybe Airtel or Jio are. They are maybe 10 times bigger than us. We are a 5-year-old company, and we're still expanding while they've virtually covered entire India. So although the category is same, but I cannot afford to go the way they want to go. But still, wherever I am, I must have my share, which in my mind should be higher than their share. So how do I do that is something, again, very, very operator specific within the category itself. For instance, what I'll tell you is that during Ganesh Utsav, we partnered with a lot of societies and sponsored their entire, because people were not coming down for Ganesh Puja. They wanted to see the live streaming. So we set the entire thing up for them so that the live streaming could be done. The links were created, online darshan, online puja, and all those kind of things were done. Now, this might seem very, very sort of guerrilla warfare, if I may use that term. But yes, that's how we have to operate. We have to invest where I see the returns. I cannot afford to do a ATL in Mumbai where I know that one building is covered and the next building is not covered. It can't happen like that for me. But yes, maybe Jio or a Airtel or a person from other ubiquitous category can afford to do that. Similarly, in this festive season is going to be no different for us. We're going to invest in our digital media. We're going to be very, very hyper local, targeting customers where they are, targeting right set of customers. We have our intelligence back in place where we know who are looking for the product, and we'll try to reach out to them. As we speak, I can share that 35% of our customers come to us online without interacting with us. So digital presence, digital media, and intelligent digital marketing, I think, is going to be the key for us. We essentially want to sort of reach out to the customer who are in pain, who want a new connection, a secondary connection maybe, because as times have evolved, while we were seeing this category as a heavily underpenetrated category, now we are seeing that at least in urban markets, people are opting for 2 broadbands. So it's a rapidly expanding category, and we have to be open in our approach to sort of cater needs of the people.
True.
Yeah.
Kiran, if you could add to the thought.
So when we talk about the brand legacy, there are 2 most important ingredients about any brand to be a legacy brand. Obviously, trust is one of the most important things. Unless and until your product has got something in it for the consumer to add value to their life, I mean, no brand can achieve the legacy status. That is the most important thing. That's why your product has to be standing very true to its offerings and benefits, etc. That is what Nilon has been doing for the last 6 decades. Okay, I mean, while my geographies might be quite limited, but still the quality which we offer to the consumer is something which is trusted by, and that is why the brand actually sort of achieve the status of the legacy. That's one. Number 2, how do we do that? It is very important. Swami has touched upon that, and I completely agree. Brand has to be absolutely relevant to the consumer, because we are into the environment which is quite dynamic and changing day by day. The brand cannot just sit across with the same product line and same offerings. The brand has to innovate themselves, consistently listen to their consumers and give the offerings which are required. And that is how Nilon has been. Probably 10 years before, we had just about 100 SKUs and 5 or 6 categories. But today we are about 40 categories, around 600 SKUs. Now, not everything might be contributing to your sales, but you need to listen to your consumer and continuously upgrade their lifestyles. So that is how the brand actually, builds the relevance to the category and try to add value to the consumer. So I think these are the 2 things which are very, very important, and that is what Nilon has been doing. I have been very fortunate to work with brands like Bisleri as well. If you see that Bisleri is not just 1 liter bottle. I mean, there are 7, 8 SKUs, and they build the relevance. I mean, they continuously keep on renovating themselves. That is how, even for the sake of that discussion, as Krishna, Parle, it's not just a biscuit company. It's a food company which actually offers solutions in the food category. And that is how they have become the legacy brand now. So I think the trust, the product offering should be very, very genuine to whatever is the solution which is required by the consumer. That's one thing. And being relevant to the consumer with the different set of offerings and being innovative. These are the 2 things which are a core construct of the legacy brand.
Thank you, Kiran. Krishna, your thoughts on the same?
Could you please repeat, Saloni? I'm sorry.
Great. So, brand building in today's day and age, your thoughts on the same, with all the clutter that is in the market?
Yeah. So I think Yeah, so I agree actually with what Swami and Kiran mentioned. So, yeah, like Kiran also mentioned that okay, Parle is just not a biscuit company. Now we have presence in several categories. In the recent past, also we have expanded ourselves into breakfast cereals, into packaged data. And of course, we've had presence in. We started our business with confectionery, which is large business besides biscuits. And then it's been about over 13 years that we've had presence in salty snacks. And within that, we have a huge variety. So definitely we've tried to convert or sort of transform Parle from not being just restricted to a particular category, but to much larger than that, as a offering, like as a brand which offers good food. Yes, and there is and over a period of time, so we made consistent efforts to build a strong brand image and brand trust. Now, brand trust is not a function only of advertising, but it is about the entire mix, product mix, marketing mix, and thereby by offering great value, we've been able to build that trust. So consumer is continuously looking and observing every aspect, every move that the brand is making. And over a period of time, she understands, okay, this brand seems to be offering extreme value or not really. So there is a clear understanding of as to how the brand, what is the kind of dialogue between the brand and the consumer is taking place. And slowly and steadily over a period of time, I'm talking about 9 decades now, is where a brand is able to build immense trust. And that's how we sort of derive trust. And that is when we sort of we are extremely sensitive to ensure that this is not hampered at all, and it actually further gets on built strongly. And whenever we make a foray into any new category, we want always we expect a positive rub-off of that to get onto that new entry brand, and thereby reach consumers. So that's largely been our effort.
Great. Krishna, any consumer or marketing trends that you foresee shaping up in this festive season?
So we've already seen this. More and more shoppers are actually shopping online. They were sort of forced to because there was no choice in the past 18 months, and now they seem to be delighted, and they seem to find it to extremely convenient. So someone was asking about speak about travel as well. So I thought, okay, so travel actually. So while I mentioned about Cadbury's, while I mentioned about paints, and while I mentioned about e-commerce, I think travel is another sector which becomes super active during the festive time, because this is the right time. One is the short term, which is, let's say, Diwali vacation. And the other is people start planning for the summer vacation, the forthcoming summer vacation. So this is right time. So someone wants to plan an international travel sometime in, let's say, in April, May 2022. So this is the right time for them to decide. And that's when we see a lot of travel being pushed, and a lot of travel being active. And so that is also an exciting category which gets extremely active during the festive times. But I'm sorry, I slightly digress. Saloni, you'll have to remind me of the question once again.
So any marketing trends that you foresee?
Yeah. So got it. So I said first one is more and more consumers shopping on e-commerce, not just shopping groceries, but and apparels. Now it is getting extended. Of course, travel has been one early mover actually, as far as change or emerging trend is concerned. So movers, they find it extremely easy to travel now online and book tickets online. Not just that, but even hotels and everything associated. So it becomes much easier. Likewise, so overall, online digital is something that I'm seeing as an emerging trend. Other than that, I think generally what we've noticed is the propensity to spend during festive times has been on a continuous rise, and we are seeing a lot more spending happening. And with say the internet speed, say for example, with internet speeds rising, we now we have seen 4G, and we are seeing even at the home internet speeds going up from as low as 256 kbps to now 100 mbps and 1 GB 1 GB speed as well. So free flowing internet actually is also propelling the online in terms of the gaming industry. So gaming, seamless gaming is becoming a very big trend, emerging trend. So I feel as a marketer, there is an immense opportunity in online gaming, but still there hasn't been a good structure as far as gaming is concerned. So say for example, someone asked me about OTT. So as Parle, when I do digital, of course, besides social media handles, we do huge spends on OTT because there is a conviction, okay, my ad is getting noticed. But I am extremely convinced, I know for sure that consumers are actually spending a lot of time on games. And there are evolving, but somewhere there is not much of a structure. So given a structure, I think it can turn out to be a fantastic opportunity for marketers to be there on esports, not just esports, I'm saying generally gaming. I think that's a great opportunity. That's another trend that I am noticing. Yeah, I think that those two come to my mind.
Thank you. Kiran, if you could highlight any trends that you see.
One of the few which what Krishna was saying, with this online grocery shopping, which is becoming very, very convenient for the consumer. What I picked up in last 18 months is that the consumer, as compared to the offline, when consumer was spending a lot of time doing shopping, say in a DMart or any store, etc., consumer was very much into evaluative mode when it came to pricing. But what is happening on this e-commerce with everything, consumer is actually spending less time in evaluating the pricing, etc. They are not comparing that much. So the propensity to spend more and not evaluate MRPs of the product actually the probability is actually increased. So this is actually a good news for marketers, and that is how even most of these delivery websites, etc. For example, the two biggies, etc. They have started charging more, etc. Without us realizing that they're charging more, etc. So that is what actually one of the big trend which we have seen and picked up. Even when you talk to your people and acquaintances, etc., they might be spending X rupees and they might be evaluating for 10 minutes for picking one product at the shelf. But right now they are not doing that because they are pressed for the time, obviously, yes, but still they find it very, very convenient to buy from them. So that's one of the key insight which actually picked up from last 18 months.
Thank you. Yes, Swami, if you could add to this.
Yeah, I think I would further want to add to Kiran's point, and this is something that I have been observing not from last 18 months, but for last 5 or 6 years, I would say. Essentially, if you see evolution of online marketing, why would I go to Amazon or Flipkart? Let's pick up Flipkart from its initial days. I would go to Flipkart because a book which would cost me maybe 400 rupees was available at 100 rupees. This kept on building, and I would go to online only for the sake of price. But over 5 years, generations have grown. Who could think of me going and purchasing a television, for instance, online? Just remember those days. We would go to a shop and see all those 5 televisions playing one after the other, and then pick one. People have evolved. The trust is something that has grown online. The reviews have become more and more relevant. People and companies are investing in earned media more than in paid media, with heavy investment, which is where this entire influencer thing comes into place. So we are now wanting more and more earned media because we know that there's a propensity for customer to move to the online thing. not only for the sake of price, but also for the sake of quality, for the sake of better comparison, for the sake of better discoverability of the products. I can today run a restaurant from home. I don't need a shop. I can run a cloud kitchen from home and give a good service to the customer, and customer knows it. He knows that he is getting good food, ordering it online, better than the restaurants. So there is a consumer behavior which will grow, and which is where trust on online is one thing that I see as a trend growing up. So while it started with pricing, it moved to quality, and gradually trust, which is epitome of marketing, will build more and more in online ecosystem, and which will actually further accentuate the shift from physical to online. And that is something I see. Maybe online will never be able to substitute offline, because offline is an experience. You go out with your family. It's not only shopping, it's also the time together that we spend. So maybe for good old nostalgia's sake, that thing will still remain. But yes, as a trend, I see trust is one thing which will keep on building and becoming more strong in the online space, which will make online a more potent marketplace for all of us.
Thank you, Swami. Actually, we do have a lot of questions coming in, but unfortunately, we're really short on time right now. What I would like to do is I would like to summarize a few of these questions and send it to you guys separately, and hopefully we can initiate a conversation again.
Sure.
But as of now, we would have to conclude this. Thank you so much, speakers, for all your time, for sharing such great expertise. It has really helped us gain some really good insights.
Thanks, Saloni.
Thank you, Saloni. Thanks, Swami. Thanks, Kiran.
Everyone.
Thanks, Kiran. Thanks,
Thank you so much, our speakers, our panelists, for being here. And actually, you indeed have given us some food for thought. So thank you very much. And thank you, Saloni, for moderating that session so very well. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm sure there are too many questions that are coming up. Do not forget to use the hashtag Festive Marketing campaign. Of course, I would like to ask all of you to keep tweeting to us using this hashtag. And now, next on the lineup is a topic that has gotten everyone intrigued. That is D2C, or direct to consumers. For a discussion on understanding festive marketing for D2C brands, I would like to invite on screen welcoming Rumi Ambastha, Director Brand Marketing at The Man Company, Sujoy Dutta, Senior Vice President Marketing at The Sold Store, and Mr. Hitesh Rajwani, Founder and CEO, Social Samosa Network. Can I request all of you to please join us on screen? Welcome back, Hitesh.
Thank you, Kathy. Thanks a lot. To all those who are watching us, I hope you guys are having a very good time. Welcome, Sujoy, to the panel. Welcome, Rumi.
Hi, glad to be here.
Hi.
Hello. So, guys, I mean, like just to start an initial conversation around D2C brands, I want to understand how different it is for a D2C brand to approach marketing as compared to a conventional brand. The last panel, we saw a lot of conventional brands in there, but I know that like D2C brands such as yours usually turn the tables. You have a different way to look at things, and like it might not even be anything close to what the conventional brands are doing. So how do you guys look at marketing for your respective brands, and have you taken up some, like have you derived some lessons from the playbook of conventional brands, or you've written something on your own? So maybe we could start with you, Rumi, and then Sujoy, you could add in.
So thank you so much, Hitesh, and welcome, Sujoy. So for D2C brands, let me just talk about The Man Company, where I'm the director for brand marketing for the past 3.5 years. So for us, I think the beauty of digital is that whatever is happening, you get to know it in real time. And that's the beauty. In traditional marketing, it doesn't happen. Right? You see things, you put up, out of home or TV, but you don't know real time what's going on. But here on D2C brands, the customer will tell you whether the customer is happy, whether the customer is upset, whether the customer wants to appreciate you. Whatever customer is feeling, you will know real time. And then the responsibility boomerangs back on you. What do you do with that information? I think that's a big responsibility that we have, because we can't shy away from that. Whether it's the sentiment or the emotions that the customer is going through, you get to know that. Also, with D2C brands, you can do segmentation very, very well. You can make cohorts, you can do segmentations, you can do direct targeting, you can understand the intent of the customer, you know where the customer is sitting, what is he doing, what is he thinking, everything. So then again, the responsibility comes back to you. Is your messaging there at the right time? uh, I don't think so. We should deny the effect that traditional marketing had for a very long time. But yes, at the same time, you can't even deny the power of digital, the power of internet, and mostly post pandemic, what we have seen. Right, you can't deny the fact that digital is here to stay. While 10 years ago, somebody must be asking you, "What do you think is the future of digital?" Right, digital is here. It's right now, and this is what it is. You're living and breathing it, and all of us are, right? Whether you're working from office or you're working from home, you're always online. Look at us, we are online right now. Otherwise, we could have very well be sitting somewhere, at a auditorium and talking. So this is life. This is what it is right now.
Right. And so I get the sense that D2C brands are usually consumer first. Like you follow, like for most of the D2C brands, the approach is inside out rather than, it's outside in and rather than inside out. And Sujoy, from your perspective, and like given that the position that you are in at the Soul Store, what was the first step to look at when you started marketing the Soul Store? Initially, the objectives would have been different. Today, they are quite different. In a post-pandemic world, they are quite different. But like, what are some of the steps that you had taken when you were looking at starting out marketing for the Soul Store? I'm asking this question for a lot of small businesses who might have some great products in place, but then the focus might just be on tech, or their focus might just be on a certain medium. But like, say, if you were to give like a zoomed out vision of what D2C brands should look at when they're looking at starting out marketing.
Cool. Thanks for the question, Hitesh, and hi, Rumi. Which actually, I think the best way to answer the question is a little bit of storytelling, right? So I think the origins of Soul Store, it's been around for about 8 years, was simply that, fans making products for other fans. And I think for every brand, regardless of sort of what life stage you're in, there will be sort of that core truth to why you exist. And you don't necessarily need, the crazy marketing budgets to go out there and do like go ham on brand marketing, for example, right? As long as you're able to serve that really important core. So if I give you the example of the Soul Store, to this day, and that's now starting to change, where we're starting to scale up brand marketing. Most of our marketing is performance marketing, but where Soul Store has built sort of this cult love in its fan base is by staying true to being a brand sort of fans and for fans. So when we used to send out our Harry Potter merchandise, it would go with a ticket to platform 9 3/4. We sent out Big Bang Theory merchandise. It would go with a copy of the roommate agreement. And that's the sort of thing that then gets you talked about. It's the sort of thing that then makes you the topic of conversation. And of course, your product needs to deliver on its promise as well. But these little touches, I think, are what do really well for a brand. And I think the reason it did well for us is we didn't approach it with the lens of what can we do that makes us viral. We approached it from a lens of, hey, we exist as a fan brand. So what are the moments of delight that we can deliver to our fans beyond just giving them a great t-shirt? And the moment we started doing that, the virality, the talkability, getting noticed, that sort of followed. And then, of course, once you reach a certain level of scale, you then sort of bulk it up with actual performance marketing, take that to a certain scale, and then move to brand marketing. But the core, I think, stays the same. Like, be very clear about what that core truth is of why you're in business, and make sure that that's getting served always.
So you spoke about driving performance being the key objective even for the Soul Store now. And I think a good chunk of D2C brands have that pressure, probably because of the funding rounds that they might have scored, and probably because of the funding they might be looking at in the near future, like say 6 months, 8 months down the lane. So how do you guys look at performance marketing for your respective brands? And while you're doing that, it's very important to build or to focus on brand initiatives as well. You can't just keep driving, like you can't just keep focusing on performance while your brand is not being built. Though in your cases, the brand has been built quite well. So how do you balance out brand and performance objectives, and like how do you look at performance marketing for your respective brands? What are the kind of avenues that have worked really well for you, some mediums that you felt that is like a no-brainer for any D2C brand for that matter? So Rumi, you could start and then we could hear what Sujoy has to say on that.
Sure. So before coming to performance marketing, I would like to resonate what Sujoy was saying earlier, that it's important to build a brand first. Okay, let people fall in love with your brand first, because if they fall in love with you, they're gonna become your evangelist anyway, right? And then you don't have to try so much harder to exactly get that bucks in your bank. You don't have to do that. So I think stay very clear about what is your brand, what is that one difference that you're trying to make, who are you talking to, and what is it that the values that you want your customer to resonate with. I'm not here to sell a beard oil. I'm honestly not here to sell a beard oil. I'm not here to sell a face wash. What I'm trying to sell here is the man company and what it believes in, right? And you, Hitesh, use Joy, as long as you connect with me on those values, that we are here to help you become the best version of whatever you want to be, right? I'm here to help you out, groom yourself inside out, right? With good content that will nourish your mind, and with good products that will make you look good and hence make you confident. So we call ourselves a gentleman's brand. And if you're on that journey and you resonate with me that, yes, I'm gentleman, so I am your brand, and you're going to love me, and you're going to take me wherever you are going, and you will talk about me at every single point wherever you find a chance that, okay, here I can talk about the man company or what they are trying to sell me, not the product, but the thought that they are trying to sell me. I think first do that. Then comes the performance marketing. You can't, like you rightly said, you can't really rely only on doing performance marketing. How much can you shove a product under somebody's throat if that person's mind is not open to what you are actually believing in? So I think that is very important. The content plays a huge role for us. At least content and community is something that is very important. Like Sujoy was also saying that, how is he building a community, right? He's building a soul store community here. That's what we are trying to do as well. We're trying to build a community of gentlemen and helping them become the best of whatever they want to. And that is very important. And constantly the endeavor is that to build good content, and build good content where it's not just social media, it's not just Instagram, but also video content, good video content on your YouTube channel, right? Stay topical. The tactical things will happen. Stay topical, stay relevant. Build good content on YouTube channel. Have a different voice on Twitter. Have a separate voice on LinkedIn, right? So social media, you have to be heavy by being a good D2C brand, because that's where your customer is actually learning who you are, right? And thereby learning what you sell. So then these channels become extremely important. Whether the content on your website or the content on your blog, all that becomes important. And once you have that, that's when the performance comes into play. So yes, YouTube works. Okay, performance wise, YouTube works. Facebook, I mean, it's rather tricky. Lately has been more tricky, but Instagram works. Reels, I mean, we try new stuff, right? We try reels, we try promoting posts, we're doing YouTube. So these kind of stuff really works for performance. And plus, obviously, marketplace is there to save us all.
Okay. And Sujoy, from your perspective, how do you look at brand versus performance? And by the time you finish, I would want to know from you guys, like, I'm not asking for an absolute number, but say if it is a D2C brand which is starting out, what should be their split in terms of brand versus performance? If there is a D2C brand which is established like yours, what should be the split? And probably look at the time frames also, like say this is the festive season, so what should be the split like? But then you could start with the brand versus performance bit.
Sure. So right off the bat, firstly, I think this is the multi-billion-dollar sort of foundational question of all digital marketing for performance versus brand. And I don't think there is one simple answer of X% performance and 100 minus X% brand. But I'll give you sort of my 2 cents on how I think about the problem. So I think ultimately, I mean, goal of marketing, performance or brand, is you build memory structures for your brand in the consumer's mind, so that a consumer who's sort of cognitively lazy, when they think about the category, you want to be one of the 2 or 3 brands that they think of, and they kind of automatically gravitate towards you. That's sort of the end goal, right, of all marketing, whether it's performance or brand. The way they do this is obviously very different. The performance, it's very impulse driven. You show them a product in a moment of time, and the expectation is they trigger that purchase then and there, or maybe the next couple of days. Brand marketing, you build those memory structures over time, and then when they want to purchase a category, which may not be an impulse, it's triggered by their own impulse. It's not something that I do. They think about me as one of the 2 or 3 brands that they want to browse through. So I think end goal, not very different. Where I would approach it, or how I would sort of split monies between the two, is I think it comes down a lot to your ability to slow burn the marketing game versus the need to see an instant result. And I think that's the reality of it. Performance marketing is about spending today and getting an output tomorrow. Brand marketing is about spending today and seeing probably disproportionate output, but seeing it come 4, 5, 6 months later, and then becoming a virtuous cycle. So a lot of brand versus performance will come down to the ability to stomach a 7-day lead time versus a 6-month lead time. And I think that's the sort of reality of it. Having said that, even for, I think, newer brands who we don't have the cash in the bank to do like full-fledged brand marketing, that doesn't mean you can't develop the brand. So you still do the little things that build the identity of the brand. So you do the things like the ticket to platform 9 3/4, etc. And when you do have the cash in the bank, when you do have the stomach to do something on a 6-month horizon, you take that same basic concept and then you blow it up into like a full-fledged campaign. But really, I think the short answer to your question is it comes down to your ability to stomach a 6-month lead time versus a 7-day lead time. I don't think there'll ever be a case where you don't do performance marketing, but there may be a case where you don't do brand marketing simply because you can't do a 6-month lead time. Yeah.
And like both of your brands have explored celebrity endorsements in the past. So how has your experience been, like as a D2C brand? Do you see that rub off happening with a celebrity endorsement? And if so, then like from your learning of working with a celebrity, what is a good time for a D2C brand to start looking at a celebrity brand ambassador? And should they even be looking at a celebrity brand ambassador in the first place?
Rumi, do you want to go first?
Sure. So our company is 6 years old, right? Ayushmann Khurrana came on board 2 years ago. So in 2019, September 2019. So the first 4 years, we actually never thought about it. And that we do need a brand ambassador, because you have to understand, first of all, why do you need a brand ambassador, right? I mean, just because everyone else is, do I jump into the game and say, "Achha, mere ko bhi hona hai"? I mean, that's really right. So, but for us, Ayushmann Khurrana do picture not from the kyunki, he's gonna come on board and my sales is gonna go 2x or 3x. We didn't even think about those things. What we were looking for was a celebrity who is exactly the human personification of the man that is there in my head, in our head. We were looking for that. And then Ayushmann Khurrana just fit the bill. He was, so all of brand values, right? Real, authentic. He was honest, right? He is disruptive. He listens to, like, I would say he listens to consumers. He listens to his audience, right? He's so self-aware. So all the brand values that we had, it just fit with AK. And then we thought, okay, this is perfect, because the brand story that I am trying to build here, I think Ayushmann Khurrana is the best, personality to actually voice those words, right? So even if you see our first campaign, that had nothing to do with any sort of tactical aspect to it. It was purely brand related. It was a brand storytelling that happened, and fortunately, it went viral. Though that is never that you decide at the get-go. But having said that, I think for the new age brands, it's important that first build a brand, first build a voice. Don't let a celebrity build a voice for you. Let the celebrity be a speaker of your voice and take it louder. That should be the game. The game should never be that, okay, let's get the celebrity on board and then I'm going to sit back and relax and he's going to do all the work. Because fortunately or unfortunately, it has happened to a lot of brands in the past that you have got somebody where people have not learned who you are. People have just learned, okay, this guy actually works for this brand. But after a while, you just remember the good ad and you remember the face. You have forgotten what the brand was. And it happens to all of us. And that is because the brand story was never built. So once that celebrity is out, or say the celebrity falls into some sort of a PR nightmare sort of a situation, then your brand is absolutely on a lurch and there is no way of bringing it back. So that would be at least my sense of it and our reason of getting Ayushman, or my 2 cents of why should somebody get a celebrity on board.
Sujoy, from your perspective?
I actually fully echo what Rumi said, right? I think where a celeb works is when you want to amplify your personality, but you need to be clear about what your personality is first. And then the celeb comes in to amplify that and make it easy to digest basically for the broader audience. And the second thing is, I think it'd be super, super clear and careful that the celeb actually fits your personality and isn't just a generic famous face. I think those are very important, necessary conditions to be met for celebs to work. And when that isn't the case, I think exactly what Rumi mentioned, it's not like your sales don't go up. If you sort of bring on a random celeb, you will see that spike happening in sales simply because famous face, people automatically sort of trust you a little bit more. But those tend to be short-lived. So the moment the campaign goes off air, you will immediately see everything falling back to earth. Whereas a really well done celeb integration where the celeb's personality fits the brand's personality really well, the celeb isn't overexposed, etc. I think when all of those boxes are ticked, the juice you get out of it is much longer lasting.
Got it. And so did you ever think of moment marketing also becoming as big for you guys? And I'm not just talking about topical moments, but then say, so the Soul Store, you had a tie-up with the Friends merchandise, if I'm not wrong. And then say, Rumi, for you, the Man Company would go very big on a moment like Men's Day that happens. So how do you guys look at these fixed moments and how do you make the most of them? So I'm talking about Friends example, Sujoy, because I know that people in my near circle, when that Friends reunion happened, a lot of buying happened from the Soul Store. So how do you guys make the most out of moments? And I'm not just talking about creating good content around these moments. I'm just talking about making the most to drive sales from such moments.
So speaking of the Soul Store, I think the way to drive sales is actually just content, simply because of sort of the nature of the brand that we are. We are a pop culture brand. So when these moments happen, and that's essentially what culture is, that it's about shared experiences. So when these moments happen, whether it's a Friends reunion, whether it's movie releases from Disney or Marvel, whether it's a character's 50th birthday, etc., it's about these sort of shared cultural experiences that fans of that particular franchise or that particular sports team or the particular artist have. So then really the best way for us to participate as a pop culture brand is to lean in, is to actually just make good content, and the business sort of takes care of itself. That of course is specific to Soul Store just by virtue of the kind of brand that we are. That may not necessarily be the case for other categories or other brands.
So is there an example wherein you found a floating moment, like any of these trending moments which are not with a celebrity or were not anticipated, and you've converted that moment into an SKU or a product range for yourself, and that has really hit the roof of sorts?
Right. So we've not, I think so far, and that's maybe something we're looking to change over time, but we have so far not done like Amul moments, if we can call it that, right? Where we just sort of pick up stuff that's topical and make something out of it. So we've not really done Amul moments just yet, maybe down the road. So far, I think our moment marketing has been very driven around pop culture simply because there's just already so much happening there.
And Rumi, for you at the Man Company, how it has been?
So I won't call IMD International Men's Day as a moment for us. It's is as important as probably for jewelry category to be, for Diwali, Diwali for a jewelry category is so important. So for us, International Men's Day is so important. Mostly from the brand point of view, not really from the sales point of view. So if I have to say sales point of view, then gifting becomes really important for us. So Valentine's Day, Father's Day, Rakhi, Bhai Dooj, right? Or Diwali. So gifting is something which is very important to TMC, and we would like to be called as a gifting destination for curated men's grooming products. And in view of that, we did start a lot of efforts on that for the past 1 year. So we launched something called a CYOB, which is curate your own box. So wherein you can come on the website, you can curate it, you can wrap it, you can add a customized card and all of that. But that is purely from the sales point of view. International Men's Day, I don't really look at it, or for example, No Shave November, or for example, Beard Day, or the National Grooming Day. I do not look at them as a sales driven sort of a time for me. It is more about bringing a new wave of change, or a new wave of redefining, questioning what does being a modern man really mean, what does being a gentleman in today's world really mean, and how can I drive that conversation, how can I help men ask those difficult questions. So I think I look at it from that point of view. International Men's Day, not really moment. So moment marketing, I mean, we have done a lot of those, but not really launched like a range or something, or a limited edition pack or something, none like that. But something that we did try this year is, because by the virtue of, again, the values, right, of inclusivity, of what we really believe in, so we celebrated an entire Pride month. Rather than doing just one day, we celebrated an entire Pride month. And that is something that we were happy to do it, and we got men from this entire community to our social media, to use our social media as their voice. And we helped smaller business to come and use our platform to actually pitch their business, because we thought, if just by you can't just do things just because the world is doing it, or just do some token sort of moment marketing, because it seemed very tokenism, for that moment you do something and then you're out of the game. But we never want to do that unless and until it really it echoes what you believe in. I just feel that it just does not make sense. So we did do a whole month, which was price celebration, and that is something that that went really well. And we were, more than the sales aspect of it, we were very content as a brand, to be a part of something like that.
And like, coming to the festive season, and even gifting for that matter, how different is like planning a calendar for festive season as compared to like any other time of the year? And at the same time, how it has changed in the last 2-3 years. Like, we've seen almost one full-blown year of pandemic, when we were almost in a lockdown, and today we are stepping into another festive season, which is kind of open. People are stepping out. And so how you've seen, like, how the last 2 festive seasons have been for your respective brands from a marketing standpoint? Because a lot of purchases, like last few panels which were happening, people were talking about how e-commerce has, like, adoption has increased. A lot of purchases are happening online. So did you guys gain a lot in that festive season last time around? And like, you're trying to match up the same numbers this year, or there is something more to what you're looking at this festive season?
Sujoy, you want to go first?
Sure. Hitesh, as like I said, you can imagine being an online first brand, as just toward e-commerce adoption, and including the festive season last year, there was a natural sort of wave that we rode, not just because we're online first, but also because of the categories that we're in, which is primarily casual wear, which again saw this huge uptick as people were at home more, and it just sort of triggered this natural gravitation towards the kind of brand that we are. What we have seen into the post-second wave sort of period is that a lot of those habits have stuck, whether it's where they shop or even the kinds of clothes, etc., that they shop. A lot of those habits are stuck around. So speaking specifically of the business that we're in, sort of nice casual wear has essentially now has taken a step jump over the course of the second half of 2020, and it's not tapered now that things are opening up again, right? So I think there is a shift that's happened that's here to stay. From a channel perspective, as I mentioned, we've always been online first, and that, of course, gave us tailwind last year, will continue to give us tailwind this year, where I think our story is perhaps a little bit contrary to most of the industry is that our retail presence is actually going up. So our retail, we're at 5 stores now, and that number is increasing every month. So we're actually expecting our retail stores to do a lot more this year than 2019, right? The last pre-COVID year. And where I think our retail stores really bring the magic home is you can do a lot more in a physical space to bring the brand experience home that you can't necessarily do online. But yeah, again, the short answer to your question is we obviously saw this behavior change happen last year, but a lot of it has stuck. And that's what we're adding on this year. And in terms of how we approach festive marketing in particular, the fundamentals aren't very different. It's just that a lot of the communication, etc., is centered around the festival instead of whatever else it might have been centered around over the rest of the year. The fundamentals aren't too different for us.
And Rumi, for you?
So last year was sentimentally, I think it was the sentiments were at its peak. The sense of being alone and lonely was at its peak, and all that sentiments of your consumers affect the brand as well. And one has to be very sensitive about that too. You cannot be talking about festival and happy things when there is so much going around you, right? And so much going around the brand, and there's so much going around in the life of the consumer. So last year, I think we took a call that we are going to be a brand who, it's not going to be opportunistic, just because it's festival, let's start talking all of this. Let's be a little bit more real about it. Let's be human about it, and marketer second, and see that there is so much of uncertainty around your brand, in the life of your consumer, and that obviously affects your brand, right? And it affected us all, affected us too. So we made a lot of calls in terms of not doing any content or not doing any communication or not running any sales offline, because as a brand we didn't want people to go out. So we took a call not to do that, right? And we got all our energy and we concentrated it on our own website and on marketplace, because of the heightened sentiment, number one, because of also our heightened sense of security and safety, which was pretty high, in last year and early this year also. So here also, this year as well, the first quarter was all right. The fourth quarter was all right. From this first quarter onwards, it started picking up again. But even now, there is we are still very careful how to navigate these sentiments, how to navigate and not people certain things to do which you won't do it in your life. Then how can you tell the customers to go and do it? So then all your communication, your content then becomes that it is a new normal. Let's not forget that. Let's not forget that, pandemic is over and we are done and whatever, right? It's not. And what is the percentage of people that we are talking about anyway, who are safe right now? There is still so much happening, right? And we cannot be cocooned into the tier 1 cities and forget about tier 2 people. And that's when all your content and the way you talk to them comes into the picture. The certain words that you use, the certain steps that you have taken in your own factory, in your warehouse, in terms of safety, in terms of security, all those things does not go away, will not go away, will stay with the brand, and should also with any D2C brands. But having said that, I think this festive is going to be a lot better. But at least the research, the reports that we have seen, it definitely tells us that, there is a 55% jump in the likelihood of the consumers to actually make most of festivals and spend more online. And the reports are very clear on that. And also that 51% of the customer is actually looking for gifting, because it is a sort of a gratitude that you want to do. And that's heightened sense of gratitude also come into the picture, because you're thankful for something as simple as being alive today, and that's big, that's huge, and we have to be very cognizant of these sentiments. But this festival, I think, it's time to, the celebration time has finally come, but it comes with its own baggages, and that baggages won't go, but it's definitely going to be better, and especially for D2C, because the tier 1, the tier 3 cities, men also now they can just go online and make the most of it and get the best products delivered in the shortest span of time, with the whole packaging of safety, of security, of everything at your doorstep. And that's what we intend to do, and that's what most of the D2C brands, I'm sure, are intending to do.
And like both of you spoke about, so Sujoy was mentioning about having stores and creating an experience with those stores. And you also spoke about tier 2, tier 3 audiences ordering online and getting to experience products which they might not have got when D2C brands were not there. So what percentage of your growth in the last 15 to 18 months is coming from regional India? When I say regional India, probably tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities. And how do you look at regional advertising at large? Like, do you create a very different content from what you would create ideally for your metro markets, or it's like, because your values are still defined, the content that you create, just the change of language works for you guys? So how do you look at regional advertising? What percentage of your growth is coming from unmetro or semi-urban areas, so to say?
Okay. Sujoy, do you want to go for that?
Sure. So I think my answer to this will be fairly short, because we're still a very top 40 city heavy brand. So about 45 odd 1 million plus population towns in India. So that's still where the bulk of business comes for us. And we don't see that changing too much in the near future. I think that will change as, of course, our product selection also becomes broader and just has more pop culture licenses, etc., that speak to that audience a lot more. So that's to your point about how much growth comes from, say, tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 versus tier 1. So for us, it's still very 1 million plus town centric. In terms of content, however, I mean, that's not the only reason to do regional content. So we've not done much so far, but it is on the cards, which is doing content and advertising that is region specific, that is language specific, and that doesn't, even if you're advertising in a metro, that's still a good approach to take in my view. And in my view, I think we need to do more than just sort of translate the English or Hindi advertising into whichever language, because a lot of the idioms, the cultural references, like a lot of what makes communication, a lot of what makes your touch points with the consumers engaging, interesting, is very, very culture specific. It's very, very reference specific, and you lose a lot of that magic when you're just doing like simple translations. So all of this is sort of in the pipeline for us. It's not stuff that we've done just yet. But I think we're clear that when we do regional content, it's going to be designed for the region rather than sort of adapted for the region. Yeah.
Rumi, your thoughts?
Absolutely. So what Sujoy was saying, the second part of it, so for the past 15 to 18 months, we have definitely seen an uptick from the tier 2, tier 3, like you were saying, the unmetro guys, right? As soon as, one realizes that the disposable income is not a problem. The problem is the availability. As soon as you make the things available to them, whether through offline brand outlets or whether online, as soon as you make it available, the disposable income is not the problem, the intent is not a problem. The problem is the availability. And that's the reason why we had a very clear strategy when we were opening our own exclusive brand outlets, that why only concentrate ourselves to tier 1, right? I mean, what's wrong with tier 2, tier 4, these men, and let's bring the man company closer to them. But the idea of opening the brand outlets was also because let us give them opportunity to touch and feel the product, to experience the product, to understand more, to talk to that, the gentleman who is there at my brand outlet, to help him understand about grooming products, about his own needs, right? Because most men do not understand that, and that education goes a very long way. So that was a pure strategy of that. So we have definitely seen a huge, a wave of new incomers from tier 2, tier 3. And from as far as the vernacular goes, I think that has to be again used in a limited fashion for a limited reasons. Just because a guy is sitting in, I don't know, probably say Surat, does not mean that he needs to be talked to in Gujarati, right? That's an assumption that you're making. Okay. So having said that, we have tried vernacular. Honestly, not really worked for us. But when we did do vernacular, it was majorly understanding, first of all, the cultural nuances that Sujoy was talking about, right? Understanding what men in that city really needs, what are the problems that they are going through, because from region to region, the problem really differs. Okay, what are you looking from a product differs from a guy sitting in a Kerala versus a guy sitting in Sikkim. It differs, right? But so you need to talk to them in the language that they understand. And here, obviously, see, the brand values does not go away, right? But your messaging changes. Values never change, right? That is still there at the back end of it. Now I'm trying to talk to him as if I'm trying to talk to a friend. And that's how you change your communication. It's never that, I want to talk about patchy beard, ab usko Hindi mein karke, let's just send it everywhere, because those people may not be calling it as patchy beard. They might be calling it, because culturally they might be calling it something else, right? And you have to understand those nuances before you make your content. We have done it in the past. Like I said, it hasn't really worked, but I would definitely like to give it a try again. But vernacular influences is something that we have done quite a bit, and it really helps.
Got it. So like we'll just wrap up the session with closing thoughts from you two on the kind of trends, and like probably you could also share your advice and learnings as marketing leaders with D2C brands. And like if you could also touch upon influencer marketing a bit, because there are some questions on that. So probably like trends, advice, learnings, and some bit on influencer marketing, and we could wrap up the session from there. Rumi, you could start, and then Sujoy could end it from there.
Sure. So your questions were trends?
Yeah.
Influencers?
No, trends and advice. I mean,
trends and advice. Okay.
/ advice, and then a bit on your experience with influencer marketing as a D2C.
Sure. So men's grooming, the trend, or let's call it something that here's to stay. Okay. The more and more the awareness is happening that grooming yourself is not vanity. Grooming yourself is does not have a gender, right? The more it helps in building the category, in widening the category. Okay. The more men are coming into the fold to understand that if I take care of myself, not just good shoes and good apparels, but if I look good, and that is important, and that has nothing to do with my masculinity or my manliness, so to say, and that machismo has got nothing to do with that, the better. And that's what is happening with the category right now, and that's why it's booming, not just in India but internationally. It's booming, right? And it's growing leaps and bounds, and that is something that is here to stay. The trend is now that we are seeing that now that this is happening, more and more men are getting open, at least on social media, to ask us more questions, to understand their skin better, to understand their needs better. And because of pandemic, what happened is that the privacy of your home became like a boon in a certain way, that you could now order products at home and take care of, and then you became much more independent. And that's why the DIY products took it just flew, right? There was a huge tailwind to DIY products, and during that time we launched that, because just because you can't go out to a salon, why should you not look good on a Zoom call? So we did that, and that's a trend that we saw, and it's still going on. We are getting more and more nuanced in terms of the products that we are launching, and that's good, from the grooming aspect. From the D2C aspect, I think the more you understand the digital aspect of it, that where is your customer sitting, whether it's OTT, whether it is games, whether it is music channels, whether it is just purely on Instagram, the more you would know where to talk and what to talk. I think that is extremely important for any marketer to understand, for that matter. But also keep yourself abreast with if anything is changing suddenly, because pandemic happened, yes, but you do see the trend going down, the entire hygiene part of it is going down, but as a brand you can't take that lightly just because it's going down. So that is extremely important, to be responsible about what you owe back to your customers, and that is extremely important. From influencers point of view, I think again we do a lot of influencers, whether it's YouTube or Instagram, right? But we keep it as honest as one should actually, because if I am also going on YouTube and looking for reviews, right, I would hate it if it is a paid review and that person was told to say 5, 6, 7 things, but the person does not believe in it. It just feels like as if you got cheated, a little bit. So we manage that very well, and we stay honest with our influencers. We tell them to use it. You have to stay true to, and plus you know your products are good, you know your products are natural, and that's what you've been saying it anyway everywhere else. So don't make false promises, use them wisely, and it definitely helps to go a little bit more vernacular so that you get a wider reach with your influencers.
Great. And Sujoy, from your perspective?
On trends, and if I talk about sort of category, business specific trends, well, basically elevated casuals as a space again is here to stay. It's been in the ascendancy for some years now. It then sort of took vertical lift off second half of last year, and it's here to stay. And I think that's essentially what we are tapping. We want to be casual wear what Raymond was to formal wear maybe 20 years ago, and that's really the goal. In terms of trends, when it comes to marketing, I think the big learning for us, which I think as marketers we all need to sort of internalize, is when it comes to brand marketing, it's now not just about like the advertising campaigns, it's as much about content. So content marketing as a part of brand marketing, I think, is becoming more and more important, because consumers are more and more rejecting traditional ads, both in terms of like giving you their attention as well as like doing it more literally through ad blockers, etc., etc. So content as a part of brand marketing, super important, which for me, I think also segues into the last part of your question, right, which is influencers. I think for me, influencer marketing is a part of content marketing. And again, I think it has its role to play, because it gives you visibility on channels across a variety of people that people look up to. Agree with Rumi. I think the transparency of doing it, of how you do it, the honesty of how you do it is super important. In our case, it's a relatively simpler problem because our products are very visual in nature, right? So it's a simple matter of putting nice designs, nice products on people who make good content and making sure that that gets the visibility that it needs. So I think influencer marketing is certainly important, and it will grow in importance as content marketing itself grows in importance, versus traditional advertising when you're thinking of building a brand.
Right. Thank you, guys. Thanks a lot for sharing your insights. I think we need to, as Social Samosa, we need to report D2C more at length and probably look at how you guys are doing it, because I think a good chunk of work that you guys do goes unnoticed from the fraternity at least. So we'll try to make an effort that we report D2C brands with a sharper lens, and we do more of these discussions with marketing leaders like you. Thank you. Thanks a lot for your time, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much, Rumi. And thank you, Hitesh, for wonderful session right now. I'm sure these insights will enable D2C brands to craft some amazing festive campaigns. Thank you so very much. Now, before we move on to the next session, I would once again like to thank our gifting partners, Tetley Green Tea, The Man Company, White Light Foods, and the Sassy Teaspoon. Our next session, ladies and gentlemen, for the day is a workshop on immersive marketing using AR and branded games by Roshali Rastogi, Senior Account Manager at Alive Now, Inc. I'd request Roshali to please join us on screen. And while she does that, I want all of you to keep sending your comments, your questions to us on whichever platform you're using and watching us on. Don't forget to use the hashtag, which is, of course, ladies and gentlemen, use the hashtag that is Festive Marketing Campaign, Festive Marketing Week. Yes. And I have Roshali here with me. Roshali, can I request you to please switch on your camera and mic?
Hi, thank you so much for the introduction. It's such a pleasure to be part of such an extensive and interesting lineup. I have a presentation prepared. I hope you all can see it. So just to give you a quick introduction to what we do, we're a creative tech studio based in Bangalore, and we specialize in making a lot of different types of branded creative tech experiences, which include Facebook playable ads, chatbots, Alexa skills, a lot of different types of augmented reality experiences, and a lot of different types of branded hyper casual games. And over the past 4 or 5 years, we've worked with several agencies and brands across the world to create all of these branded creative tech experiences. And today in my presentation, I'm primarily going to be speaking about 2 of these experiences. One is augmented reality, and the second is gaming, both with context to festive marketing. So as we all know, and we've all been very privy of the festive marketing space over the past few years, it's a space which is very, very cluttered and sees a lot of competition between brands to stand out, to make themselves visible to their consumers. So AR and gaming can give you that edge over other brands or like competing brands because all of these offer a way for consumers to proactively engage with that 30 to 90 seconds of that immersive experience that is put out using augmented reality or gaming. So to quickly get into what AR and gaming are, AR primarily has 2 types that are very, very prominent. One you may have seen in the form of AR filters on Instagram, Facebook, or even Snapchat lenses. And the second type is web AR experiences. So as our phones have become stronger, as our processors have become so much more powerful, and we have better internet speeds and people have better internet packs and things, it's just so much easier, and AR has become so much more accessible to consumers and brands, and for consumers to experience their brand in high fidelity 3D experiences, animations in all of its look and feel, visuals, etc., in their own space in augmented reality. Coming to games, we build a lot of hyper casual branded games. We also have our own solutions called the Newsfeed Smart Apps and Swipe Up games that we use to create these games, which are a very delightful, very creative way for brands to sort of meet their consumers for gamifying a purchase experience or gamifying an experience which essentially wins your consumers coupons or vouchers to a sale, and can be plugged in for various marketing objectives like lead generation, driving app downloads, holding contests, giveaways, and eventually driving traffic to your e-commerce website or even footfalls. And all of these experiences are right there with you through the marketing funnel. So right from your creating awareness, whether it's a brand that's launched a new product in a new demographic, or it's a portfolio diversification. So just creating that wow factor right through your consideration phase, through try-on experiences, through experiencing 3D unboxing or experiencing a branded environment around you, right till the end to your driving purchases, which is having any kind of contest, any kind of giveaways to close the loop and get your consumers after they've learned everything about your brand to get them to your e-commerce page or your retail outlet. So I have a couple of case studies here prepared for you, which I will be getting into. The first one is something that we built for Agio, and it's the second time that this the same game is being launched for the Big Bold sale, which kind of speaks about the success of this game. So Agio cleverly marketed this gaming experience, which showcases a lot of different brands within a 360-degree treasure hunt environment, along with deals that are applicable on each brand. So this kind of gives consumers insight into what brands are available during the big bold sale, and they can also set a minimum score and win scratch cards to the sale. So this can also be plugged in during festive marketing, where brands are innovating, they're coming up with new products maybe, or they have their festive sales or festive discounts that are applicable. So this is a great way that Agio was able to portray that, and the same can be done through during festive marketing for any kind of brand as well. The second case study that I have with you is something that we very recently built for the Tata Group, which to commemorate J.N. Tata's 182nd birth anniversary. So within the game, you will see that all of the elements that are used speak of the brand in its, the elements that are used, the symbols that are used, the imagery that's used, everything. And the same can be done through during festive marketing for any kind of brand, as they portray their different visuals, they portray their different contests and everything. And at the end of the experience, they can link out, use a coupon code that they've won, and link out of the experience and go to an e-commerce page and finish their purchase. This is something that we'd launched for Home Center in the Middle East, where they wanted to showcase their range of modular furniture. Now, during festive season, it's very typical of a lot of Indian households to revamp their own space, and to, you see a lot of new furniture being purchased. You see a lot of, even wall paint, flooring, everything being revamped. So this is a great way, because this is such a familiar gaming format. So it's very easy for people to adapt to this gaming format, and then, win any kind of gratification through the experience by setting a high score or completing the game in a stipulated amount of time, and then eventually leading out to the e-commerce page to finish their purchase, close the loop. Finally, the last case study I have on gamification is one of my favorites, actually. This is something we built for Puma's biggest sneaker drop of 2020, which was the Puma Riders. So this again is a very popular gaming format. It's the arcade style pinball game, where we decided to use both the sneakers as the paddles that are used in the pinball game. And as you hit the slabs on the side, the campaign poster is revealed at the back, and high scores are determined by how quickly you were able to complete the game. And this game was so successful that Puma's counterparts in South Africa also launched this game. It was extensively promoted. They had a lot of influencers trying it and posting their scores, everything. So similarly, even during festive marketing, if there is any sort of new product launch that happens, any kind of retail brand that wants to do some sort of gamification, they can incentivize users, and they can eventually close the loop by taking users out to the e-commerce page, and they can redeem the coupon that they won through this. Now, another defining factor that Newsfeed Smart Apps offer is that very seamlessly we integrate lead generation into the game, where to redeem the coupon that you won, you can leave your form fill data, which includes your name, email ID, phone number, or whatever other parameters that the brand might require. And this is a very seamless way for brands to, collect a database that they can use for all of their future campaigns. And it's, users consent to it because they're winning coupons. This is an article that we have written, and it's live on thedrum.com, which goes into more details of why hyper casual branded games work very well, can be leveraged very effectively towards marketing efforts. So you guys can scan this QR code on your smartphone and read the article if you feel like. Now I'll be moving on to my case studies in the AR space. So my first case study here is something that we built for Bath & Body Works, again in the Middle East, for the Ramadan festivities. And again, something like this can be done for any kind of festive season. So through this, Bath & Body Works wanted to show its latest products, and then the brand also garnered a lot of UGC, as a lot of people posted their score, they tagged the brand, and they got a lot of people to participate. And so all of these things can be plugged into festive marketing efforts by any kind of brand, where people can they can plug in their different products or showcase any kind of new services or products or new offerings, or even give coupons through this. This is something very interesting that we built for Oreo, and this I felt was relevant, since the whole idea around the festivities is getting people together. So with the two people functionality on AR experiences, we built this thing where two users can compete to set a high score. And again, the brand was able to garner a lot of UGC. They saw massive participation, massive conversation around it on social media as people tag the brand everywhere as they, put their high scores on their story or their posts, everything. And they had, got a lot of people to try it as well. So again, something that can be very effectively done during the festive season. So these are Oreo cookies that were being dunked in milk. It could be mithais, it could be any kinds of savory items, different kinds of things that are more festive. Coming to this, this is another simple but very elegant filter that we built with the State Bank of India, where people can select from 3 really nice Rangoli designs and place these 2D Rangoli designs in their own space. So while this is, just 2D Rangoli designs, this kind of an experience can also be used during festive marketing for, placing any kind of the brand's offerings, whether it's 3D products, whether it's 2D images or posters, any kind of thing can be plugged in. And essentially you're allowing consumers to experience your brand in their home with the convenience of staying in their own space. Coming to web AR, so this is the second type of AR which I spoke about, which can be hosted and launched essentially on your smartphone's web browser. I especially wanted to present this case study because during the festive marketing season, we've noticed that a lot of brands partner with a lot of different influencers and a lot of different celebrities and get their ambassadors on board to, convey their festive greetings or any kind of festive sale or any kind of thing, right? So this is something that we built for Prime Video when they launched Drishyam 2, and it did massively. It did spectacularly well in the areas that it was promoted in, where you can see Mohanlal in your own space. You can place him, and he's there with his family giving you a message about the movie launch. So something similar to this can also be done, where consumers can literally get your brand ambassadors, get your influencers, get your celebrities in their own space, and they can interact with your brand, hear about your offerings, hear about your festive sales, or any kind of thing that you need to convey through an experience like this. And this, again, gives great opportunity for brands to garner UGC across different social media. Coming to the final case study that I have under AR, these are two different types of unboxing experiences that I wanted to showcase. Which showcase just how robust an unboxing experience on web AR can be, where you can literally bring a product to life, explore it into true 3D, explore all the aspects about it, learn about the specifications, and finally you can also close the loop by clicking the buy now button or the find out more button, as you can see in these experiences, to head over to the e-commerce page and learn more there, and then finally close the loop by making your purchase. So this is another great way during the festive marketing season. If any kind of gift boxes have to be unboxed, or any kind of products that have to be unboxed, especially like there's a lot of jewelry, retail, furniture brands that do a lot of stuff during the festive period. So these are all very, very great ways of reaching your consumer in their own space. And we have also noticed that during the pandemic, a lot of brands and consumers have become very, very receptive towards creative tech experiences and have become very adept at using these. To finish off, I do have, so at the end of this session, there's also a Q&A session in case you guys have some questions sparked for me. I'd be happy to answer them. But before I get into that, this is again another article that we have published on thedrum.com, which goes into details of how augmented reality experiences can be leveraged for any kind of marketing effort. So you guys can scan this QR code and read the article, and that's that. After this, we have another thing that I wanted to speak about was we have created this deck of 25 really interesting, really amazing 25 plus concepts for brands and agencies that they can explore for festive marketing. And so I have picked out two of my favorite concepts from the deck. The first one is a custom greeting generator. So a lot of brands can capitalize through experiences like this, where they can get a lot of UGC, where consumers can upload pictures through this experience, and this obviously generates a custom greeting card, but it can also be done for video experiences, where you can pick a template, you can pick an audio, you can pick any kind of thing. So as your consumers share these experiences on their social media platform, they're carrying the brand with themselves, because they have those templatized images generated for them through experiences like this. The second one is very interesting again. It is an interactive video experience. So the images that you see on the side are actually from a project that we did with Adidas in Germany, where the brand reached out to us with the TVC that they had lying around and they wanted to repurpose it to make it shoppable. So as users are watching this TVC, they can see athletes running around and they can click on all of the apparel that they're wearing to add them to their cart. And within the cart, which is within the experience, the interactive video experience, they can pick their size, they can pick a color, and with the required API access, they can just link out to the e-commerce website to close the loop and finish their purchase. So similarly, during the festive season, any kind of new launches, any kind of new products that have been launched by any kind of brands, and they have these TVCs ready, we can make them interactive. We can add that layer of interactivity to make it shoppable, so that consumers just aren't watching a unidirectional television ad or a YouTube ad or something. They can actually close the loop there itself by linking out, by getting all the information through the TVC and then linking out to make that purchase. So that was my presentation. Before I end, here is an article. So we collaborated with Social Samosa. We have an article up on the Social Samosa website, which goes into extensive detail about how marketing, hyper casual games and augmented reality experiences can be leveraged for marketing. The QR code is here. You guys can scan the QR code, read the article, and you can also access the deck that I had spoken about just now, which has those 25 ideas for festive marketing, by leaving in your details underneath this article. So yeah, so that was my presentation. If there are any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Thank you, Roshali. That was a wonderful presentation, and we do have many questions. So I would urge you to go through them, but I'm just going to quickly ask you one or two out of them. So one question which I just recently saw is from Abhishek Kumar. He says, "Hi Roshali, AR seems apt for scenarios where the offering is generally a physical product, but how would you incorporate AR for service industry, say like a SaaS platform?"
So when it comes to service industries, we have done a lot of work with a lot of companies in the banking industry and a lot of OTT platforms as well, which don't have a particular physical product. So it just depends on the kind of requirement that the brand has, and whenever brands do reach out to us, they kind of specify certain points that they want to focus on, certain visuals that they want to incorporate into all of these experiences. So it's not usually something. So for example, even with Prime Video, right? So it's a platform which doesn't have a specific product, but then they could leverage a movie. They could leverage AR for a movie release through adding characters from the movie or like protagonists from the movie, which did wonders for them in terms of usage and trials and stuff like that. So yeah, it just depends on what requirements the brand comes to us with and stuff that they want to focus on, and then we go from there, and we create experiences that satisfy whatever marketing objectives they have through AR. Yeah.
Wonderful. Roshali, another question we have is from Priyanka Day. Which format gets maximum engagement? Is it the landing page, app, or which platform works best? She'd like to know.
So this is a very interesting question, actually, and a lot of people do ask us this question. So it purely depends on where you are in the marketing funnel and what your objective is and the success of any campaign. So there could be a service that we've created which gets, say, 10,000 views. That might be successful for that particular brand, for the objectives that it had. But there might be another brand which gets 100,000 views and it's still not considered maybe like a success or whatever, because they have different parameters. So it purely depends on where you are. So for example, hyper casual branded games are great when the objective is lead generation and to link people out to an actual product page and to complete the purchase or have contests and stuff. Whereas augmented reality filters on Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, all of these are great when the requirement is to create that wow factor. Like, look at this new product, see how it works, instead of, we're here to collect leads or we're here to sell our product. It's just to create that awareness. So based on where you are with what you want to do with your product, that's that determines what will work for you.
And a quick last question I want to ask you is by Michelle Patrick. In your experience, are traditional brands open to adopting AR and game solutions?
Yeah, definitely. So we were just going over this a couple of days ago when we were also, doing a lot of research into this, and we realized that a lot of brands have now become, so we have worked with brands that are in the tire making industry, or even all of these pipes that we have all around, lighting, furniture, all kinds, like a lot of different types of brands and a lot of different types of agencies also, whether they're mainline agencies or digital agencies. We've seen very good reception towards creative tech services in the recent past, because earlier, maybe all of these experiences weren't as accessible to brands and service industries as they are now. And as I mentioned, right, like as we have better phones, as we have better internet connectivity, all of these experiences have now become very accessible, and brands now everywhere are seeing just the amount of potential this has, especially with the pandemic, where people couldn't step out and people couldn't actually try before they buy. We gave them lipstick try-ons, we gave them apparel try-on, and we gave them so many different types of things that they could do from the convenience of their own home. So yeah, the education curve has shifted completely, and everybody has now just become much more receptive towards these. So there's no discrimination between who's better at it and who's not. It just helps everybody.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rushali, for answering those questions and for that wonderful presentation. There's a lot of love pouring in the chat box for you. I'd like you to take a look at it when you can. Thank you so much once again for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It was great. Thank you.
Thank you, Rushali. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, with that, we are moving on to our final session of the day, speaking on the messy middle, an interesting festive opportunity. We have with us Ms. Hina Pandey, Vice President North at Connect. May I request Hina to please join us on screen by switching on your video and mic. Hi, Hina.
Hi.
Thank you. Thank you for dropping in the chat as well. We saw your wonderful response there, but we are really looking forward to this session from you.
Thank you. Thank you, Krati. I was actually listening to what I think Rushali was saying about how AR can develop into whatever you require for your brand or product or service. And honestly, it's a very exciting thing, because let me just start off there, because there is a starting point there. What I wanted to talk about as the messy middle is essentially the growth curve between the second wave and now. And in fact, in the morning only, I was seeing a few data points, and it shows that a lot of newer audiences have arrived on digital. About like 30% are making their first digital purchase this festive. So honestly, we're in the middle of, say, a trajectory where some people are growing, some people are recovering, and it's a very, very interesting opportunity. So thanks for having me here. Let me just kick off my session with that. So what I actually want to do is make it a little more interactive if possible. I don't want to be speaking for 30 minutes straight, and probably it's going to look like I'm talking to myself because of why I want people to keep asking questions, and I'll try and adjust them as and when they come on the chat. I have the chat open in front of me. So yeah, actually what made me think about the messy middle is basically there's this book which talks about how when you start up a journey, there is a time in the middle where you recover and you fall, and you recover and you fall, and you recover and you fall. And that's where we are, both in terms of marketing and advertising presently. June, July, everybody was kind of packing up their advertising revenues. They were closing down their budgets. It was all about making do with what we have. And from a customer standpoint also, it was about just, looking at where life is. To now we sit around has rapidly changed. Many people are vaccinated, so many people are stepping out. In fact, when I read the industry news, in fact, print is looking up again. Offline activations are looking up again. So clearly there is good for digital, there is also good for other mediums in advertising and for branding. So when I look at this unique opportunity this time, it's a different festive period. It is not just another festive period that you have been in the past. Last year's festive period was clearly about something. People were talking around certain motives because it was a humanitarian call in terms of taking care of that empathy that was missing, and for brands to make that point. But now where we are is a lot of us are moving towards normalization. Half of my team is sitting out of office as I speak to you. There is hybrid work culture everywhere, which is, taking shape. So we are not talking to a regular customer anymore. There is a customer who has gone through this evolution. And anyway, when I look at India, it's not a landscape that can have one generalized blanket cover saying that, yes, I'm talking to A customer or B customer. And I don't need to say this for anyone here. Everybody knows that. But what I want to highlight is that even within that, right, when you see data points like 50% of Indian shoppers are ready to shop, while it's a great blanket data point, right? All of these 50%, who are they? They could be in the part of the country where they binge revenge shopping, right? That's one trend that we've seen. But they can also be in a part of the country where they are value conscious and get growing wiser, and they're looking at digital as an avenue, as part of their journey, where they're looking for more value adds on digital, or more cashbacks on digital, or in some way a better value than their offline store. Then there is a part of the country that is still reeling from economic loss. So what I want to highlight is that, this messy part where we are planning for festive, we cannot run with blanket generalizations that, 50% of the audience is ready to buy, so let's just throw communication at them. In fact, this is the year where you look into personalization and hyper personalization very, very, very closely. So that is something that I wanted to highlight. There is obviously some things that we learned from the last festive year. Now, when I look at our journey as Connect, there is a lot that we did around the festive period. When we look at some of the bigger campaigns, they were clearly either about cause marketing or looking at the brand at a macro lens. It was not about just budgetary thoughts. It was about how, as a brand that has something human to say, can say that to a larger segment of the consumer. It was not just about my consumer, my immediate competition. It was about a consumer and talking to them. So let me just pick up one or two such examples. For Nokia, while we were wrapping up the festive period, we had a beautiful opportunity to talk to a cohort that often was not part of any of these communications that you saw last year about how COVID has impacted people. And our creative team and the Nokia marketing team took a very conscious call to look at a certain set of people, which is the elderly, and how COVID impacted them. Now, you could say that the elderly are not buying Nokia, so why am I doing this? But the question is that Nokia at a philosophical level stood for how tech can come to be put to good use. So there was a very, very refined objective for this campaign, which is to pronounce that, yes, I as Nokia stand for something that is good, that is to enable people to use my technology and uplift their current environment and space. So we worked on this award-winning campaign called Khamoshi Khatam, and it led to basically an online-offline mix of medium kind of approach, where we reached out to Help Age India and we worked with them to curate concerts in different parts of the country with their old age homes for elderly with Alka Yagnik. And we kind of dramatized all of this, and obviously there's a film for that. But what was beautiful was when I saw these concerts come to life and there was Alka Yagnik on stage in front of me, beamed through 5 Nokia phones or 6 Nokia phones across different geographies in the country. And Alka ji was able to interact with 20, 30 elderly who were just alone during the past 30, 40 days when they're supposed to be chilling with a lot of these volunteers that come. And due to COVID, there was complete silences in these homes. So the idea was that we with Nokia wanted to end these silences. And that was a very refined objective for a very pointed campaign. We also did something similar where we're looking at TikTok talking about Matkar Forward. In that, again, the thought was not just about I am a brand which has, say, a target, a KPI. It was all meta. Last year, 2020 festive or pre-festive was all about these meta narratives, because we were reeling from the pain of being put against COVID together. And that togetherness allows you to not segment your communication and look at umbrella narratives much more openly, right? I wouldn't say easily because it was a very tough year, but it definitely allows you to go for that kind of communication. So, this year, as I said, the same consumer has evolved and is at a different stage in their life cycle. So what do we do with that consumer? Do we, not look at the heartfelt campaigns and the thoughts that we had? And do we not apply any of that learning? I would say no. I would say that while Khamoshi Khatam last year made sense, it needs to be evolved to where the consumer is today for it to make sense. And the truth of the matter is that we may not be able to talk about the same set of people in our consumer-facing communication. We may not even be able to put together the same narrative. So my basic philosophy for this year's festive is going to be keep refining who you're talking to, because this time around you're talking to many consumers that are in very, very different life cycles. They are looking for very different things, and at a very microcosmic level, these changes have happened in a very short period of time. So from perhaps keeping their wallets close to their heart in July to October, when, as I said, a lot of the industry folks are telling you that, hey, everybody is willing to spend a lot more than the average. The brands, as you can see, are eager to invest in larger and larger deployments around the festive period. So everybody's kind of looking at this period with some amount of cautious optimism. So when it comes to this year, I would suggest that we should always look at the opportunity at hand as a mix of all these different variables. And what do we build on at this time is essentially, let's look around and see what changes have happened in this period. What is the customer focusing on? So one of the key things or the key trends that Kinect has been trying to introduce in our ideation sessions is to really look at making creative impact at a one-on-one basis with the consumer. Barring the brand, I'll tell you an interesting idea that I heard, that imagine you were able to pass on joy to the customer by creating a personalized message every time you receive that SMS saying your order is out for delivery. Imagine having a personalized audio message alongside that. So as I can see, the market is really, even the Goliaths of e-retail are focusing on consumer experience much more closely. They're trying to figure out how they can speak to the consumer in their own language. You will see a lot more push towards vernacular this year. You are not only looking at, hey, I'm going to say A, and I'm going to say A across all channels. I am going to speak of whatever I want to speak of in as many languages as I can, because I know now that most of the population that is coming towards digital in the last couple of months is from towns that would prefer being spoken to in a language that they understand, rather than pushing advertising down their throats that they perhaps don't even understand or would like to listen to. So a large amount of advertising is going to be focused on personalization as well as regionalization. There is another important aspect, like I was saying, audio, voice. These are parts to your rather interesting festive puzzle for this year, where I have personally asked my team to focus on these audio surprises. an ad is an ad, right? You can hear an ad while listening to a podcast, but the contextualization of that ad makes a lot more difference today than perhaps even in 2019. It was okay back in 2019 to just throw your same ad everywhere, but definitely not now. Recently I saw this GWI chart where social media globally was ranking as effective and as reach specific as television globally. So clearly we are not the second fiddle to television. Digital is a primary marketing channel for most brands now. And therefore, customer experience via digital, customer engagement via digital, beyond vanity metrics have become so important. Like this year, if I were to quote an example of a brand that I'm working with, Amazon has launched 2-3 more new languages for their UX. They are changing and constantly evolving initiatives like assistance, where they teach a consumer how to use the app, because they know that there is a large subset of the audience that is making their first purchase on digital. So it's the brand's duty to assist them in kind of learning how to do this. And that is what I'm talking about, looking at the opportunity at several levels, that just looking at it as a blanket opportunity will not allow you to see all these steps to acquiring this new customer. Because let's be honest, this person has just joined digital, they are going to meddle around, and if their consumer experience is not up to the mark, they're going to drop out and go back to the offline channel. So it's about understanding that complete journey, and therefore serving something as a festive campaign or a festive thought that doesn't forget where this customer is, who this customer is, and is part of a segment rather than just a homogeneous whole. And that would be my single point advice to most of the marketeers. And that's basically how I'm also looking to advise my brands, where when I'm speaking to them with all of this burden of truth and all the data that I have absorbed in the last couple of months, some of it obviously thanks to social samosa, everybody, even the youngest common denominator in the advertising industry learns. So yeah, sorry, I think I got a question on how do you make customers from tier 2-3 cities part of the conversation. Yeah, that's something that we are working towards very, very very, very dedicatedly for some of our brands. So let's look at the consumer in the light of what they do. So a tier 2 consumer is largely taking digital as a community building platform, as a reception of content platform, that's why you see so much more traffic on a YouTube, so many downloads of a Josh and a Mextakatak in these areas, because it's literally the in my hand entertainment system. And as we all know that tier 2-3 folks really do love having convenient entertainment, because up till now, think about how their access to entertainment has been, which is why such a larger turnover for such apps and such entertainment efforts in such areas. So one of the key denominators for a regional plan for me would be to look at their entertainment content consumption habits. Also look at what is really striking a chord with them, what kind of brands have reached out to them in the past and successfully done so. And then perhaps form a plan which is specific to their circumstance. And that is the key thing, because what happens is you take a tier 1 narrative and you regionalize and dub it, and you show it to this person saying, this is aspirational. But that person, if say Henna is from Allahabad, Henna is may not be English educated, but is street smart enough to understand, hey, this is not my life. So the idea of personalization actually will come into play and give you higher ROI when you're looking to contextualize each of these messages and deliver them in the daily routines of your tier 2 and 3 customers. So Sijo, Raju, have I answered your question? I hope you've gotten an answer for that. Does college marketing and brand marketing differ for each other? Yes, it would. I would say that in terms of textbook definition, yes, but also in terms of how you map and how fluid you are in mapping those targets and those plans. I would say that if you're a college marketing, is in a college marketing itself, a college brand, I think you would be able to devolve much faster than a brand. And that's just my personal opinion. That may not be industry fact, but the effort that goes into by an agency to kind of look into how to market a college would be, yes, the strategy would be largely dependent on a cohort which is young, upcoming, education seeking people, which is a very very cool subset, I would say, to market to, as compared to many brands dealing with people who are set in a certain way and are not as adaptable as college people. So I would say it's a TG difference, it's a customer difference, as well as it's a difference of adaptability. Do you think cause marketing works on the ground level after seeing an aerial ad? How many husbands did actually share the load? That's a very funny and very important question. I think that, and again, I'm taking off Connect and anyone else from this. It's my personal opinion that it's about narratives, right? What do you see in popular culture? Ariel can do that one ad and can take out many variations of it. How many are following suit? If there is even one brand marketing to a tier 2, tier 3 group of people just because they know that this is what works in tier 2, a very regressive idea of a household, then sadly, no matter how much Ariel tries, Ariel has failed. And it's not something that I take merit away from Ariel. I actually am then putting my anger towards the brand that has chosen the easy way out rather than educating a certain subset of people. They have just taken the way of, I will try not to offend this public. So that would be my take on the ground impact. Ground impact comes with a collective. Ground impact doesn't come with just one step, although it's a great step in that direction, but it is about ensuring more and more brands take that step. Which digital platform any FMCG brand should look forward for generating digital sales who have major audience from rural market? Honestly, SMS marketing has helped a lot of large brands in the retail space, which is audio and SMS. So, automated calls, sending links out, and at the end, also setting up digital spaces wherein you're looking at a digital outlet that is being accessed through a common local hub. So the person is essentially seeking help in their offline space because that's how the person is and how their journey is in that they need offline help. So you have to start digital and then you kind of bring them on to your platform and make a habit out of it. Yeah, sorry, there's just a lot of questions pouring in, so I'm just going to take some time and answer those. Cement marketing is it again, I would say digital. It cannot only be digital because of course rural markets need the brick and mortar touch. It is also, I think, advocacy. Cement marketing really, it matters when you're looking at the person who's laying the bricks. Is that person speaking of your brand? So it's a part and parcel of the journey of the brand where you start you start with offline, you build digital efforts, and then you focus on deploying digital platforms for more like affiliate sales rather than just B2C sales, right? What are the apps you are looking at for T2, T3 other than Takatak, Josh, OTT, and any shopping apps like SimSim? We are also like sometimes looking at any advertising channels offered by apps like Meesho. It's because most of the tier 2, tier 3 apps that are in the content space, they have channels of advertising rather than just content creation. It's a mix of content creation and advertising. So therefore, we kind of have to look at apps for that potential. So I would say that a lot of brands are focused right now on Josh and Takatak, but we are also looking at advertising opportunities beyond that when it comes to sales apps like resale apps like Misho. Do they have any advertising real estate that can help us? What avenues brand marketers and advertisers should invest into, given the objective is to maximize sales in the festives? Any platforms beyond the obvious? For generation of sales, honestly, it's I would say that the focus should be on a full funnel strategy rather than just kind of focusing on, hey, which is the best platform to drive sales, because this festive season sales is going to be the KPI for every brand. So actually, this is something I was going to come to in the later half of my session, which is, everybody is going to look at the same data that is being served to them. So everybody, your competitor wakes up in the morning, sees the 50%. Your the kid who's entering the market right now is going to see the same data point. So it really matters that how is your strategy addressing your consumer differently. And without an omni-channel strategy, I don't think your sales number is going to be any better than your immediate competition. And you should really look at how the sales bigwigs like an Amazon and Flipkart are fighting that battle in the festive period. They are constantly looking at engagement platforms because they know that the digital journey is not linear. It is a very non-linear journey. And the idea is to always fight for that share of voice. So are you fighting for that share of voice? Yes. In that, you have a baseline strategy for sales. If both of those don't work hand in hand, you're going to lose somewhere. So that would be my answer, Hitesh. I hope that that explains at least my take on this. Akanksha, how do we calculate ROI for influencer activity? Take a step back and think about why you did this influencer activity. So if you enter influencer activities clueless about the role of the influencer in that activity, you are possibly going to have a hard time explaining to the brand what the KPI was or what the ROI was on this. I like to start most of our influencer activities with a clear-cut agenda that, hey, I know that your brand is looking for awareness, top funnel. So this is essentially going to be measured as reach and impressions, and the quality of engagement is a bonus. Then there are brands that have a clear-cut KPI of changing the consumer sentiment. Then I am going to key in how many positive comments did this activity receive. So ROI is always backward of the objective that you set out for an activity, and let no one tell you differently. Anonymous attendee is asking, how do brands now ensure purity are strong enough? For example, when it comes to diaper brands, they all try to be contemporary. Yeah, see, this is the part that I also often, I don't have a straight answer to it, but it is getting to a point where it becomes just another ad that I've seen, or just another stance that the brand is taking. And that's what's funny about today's marketing conundrum, right? Is that every time you will go to a brand and say that, this is a stance that you must take, it is new, nobody has said it, the answer would be, oh, that's something the cred people and the Zomato people should do. But the moment you receive a brief 6 months down the line, it's going to be like, how can I be cred? So the truth of the matter is, you had an opportunity to be cred, you let go of it. Why did you let go of it? Is because there are obviously realities of a brand that nobody can deny. And then that's where the agency's push is most pertinent. Am I the right agency partner? Yes, if I'm pushing my brand enough. So when I talk about this, every brand being contemporary, every dad being part of parenting, that's a great narrative. But after a few of those, if everybody's talking the same part of the problem, then it's not a standout piece of communication for me, at the very least. So my way out of that is always to look at, there's even like when you look at feminism, if everybody wants to be a feminist, but there is part of feminism that everybody has been talking about, there are parts of feminism that nobody has spoken about. Why not touch those aspects of feminism? That, why not just question the basic understanding of the average Joe of feminism? There are so many onion peels to a conversation. Why always pick the top layer and then just keep refurbishing that. So for me, I think, I don't know, I would ask Kathy, am I overshooting my time? Maybe I'll wrap up quickly.
We
Kathy?
can take a few minutes.
Okay. So I'll just go down to my, parting thoughts that as an agency partner, Connect always looks at impact. We actually have this term, Connect Impact, internally, and we decide this before going into a campaign. And this is going to help you a lot if you're entering the festive season very clearly, keeping that impact and the consumer, that specific consumer that you want impacted, in mind. So we did a campaign called Add an Ant back in 2020, in 2019, 2020, where the purpose of the campaign was delivering HDFC festive treats to the largest, group of people, but in a frugal and a media smart manner. So when we look at such key objectives put out at the very outset, the result and the KPI is always easier to achieve. And the frugality, of course, was the need of the hour back then. So what I want to leave you with is that for us agency folk and even for brand managers, please drill into what is the need of the business for your brand, but also what is the need of the brand in the brand's current scenario. What is the relationship of your brand with the customer right now? And how do you want to change that relationship? And if you have something unique to say to the customer, is it really unique or is it unique for you? Are you saying it for the first time? Do you have any new consumer experience to highlight, which will ensure that I as a customer want to connect with you? And at the end of it, what is the value that you want to deliver? And can you state that value in like a one? So this is my personal thing. Can you tell me about this in a one-line statement? And if you're not able to be that articulate, I feel like you've not given this idea or this objective or whatever it is enough thought to be able to convey it in that, sharp 1-2 line format. So yeah, I think I would ask you to look at the messy middle in the many layers that I have tried to kind of open today. And I think I somewhere in answering all the questions, I let go most of my points. So I'm sorry about that. But yeah, my larger point, I think, has been communicated. Any other questions? Yeah, okay. I think I've tackled most of them. Yes. So yeah, thank you for listening to me.
So much. Yes, thank you, Henna. I think it was wonderful. While you must have missed some points which we don't know about, but you put in so many questions from our audience and kept it so interactive for us. So thank you very much. It was a great session. And it was wonderful
listening. Thanks for having me. Thanks, Kathy. Thanks, Hitesh. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, have a good evening, everyone.
What a powerful end to an insightful day. With this, we wrap up day 1, ladies and gentlemen, of the Festive Marketing Week. But we have day 2 and day 3 coming up for you. So stay tuned for the next 2 days as we have some eminent speakers and interesting topics lined up for you. Day 2 and day 3 agenda will be available on our social media channels. And also if you subscribe to our emails, you'll receive them there as well. Before we leave you, we'd like to engage with all of you, whether it's on tweets or on comments on any of our social media platforms. Do not forget to use the hashtag, which is Festive Marketing Week. As you log out of this platform, you will receive a survey feedback form as well. We request you to please share in your feedback with us. We'd love to know what you thought of today's day 1 session. And if you'd like to write to us, this is our email ID. It's team@socialsamosa.com. With that, I'm going to take a leave. This is me, Khyati Kawa, your host, and I'm excited to see you tomorrow for an insightful day 2 of the Festive Marketing Week. Thank you very much. Have a very good evening.